I died on my first day in a new world, bitten before I learned the city's name. My name is Yukchan, and I woke in Gonghae City as a corpse that had somehow kept its mind. Then a blood moon gave me corpse control, and every dead thing on the street began answering to me. The starving baby girl I carried home turned out to be the reincarnated human Empress. The loneliest thing in the city had a daughter and an army. Like the video, hit subscribe and the next part lands in your feed automatically. Easy trade. The story behind this is messier than the hook lets on. Let me roll it back to day one. Gonghae City smells like something that died a long time ago and never got buried. The streets are a spill of broken walls and dead cars, and the wind pushes trash down the middle of the road with nobody left to sweep it. Broken utility poles lean over the curbs, their wires hanging in tangles like matted hair. Every tower along the avenue has lost its glass, and the walls that held that glass are streaked dark and split with cracks, standing there like they are waiting for permission to fall. The shop signs have come down and the doors hang half open, and everything inside them was carried off weeks ago. I stand at the window of a dim room and look out at all of it, and I want to scream at the sky. What comes out of my throat is a string of low growls, because my throat has not made a human sound in a month. I turn to the mirror instead. The man in the glass is thinner than he should be, in old clothes that still look strangely clean next to all that blood and rubble outside. His skin has gone the pale of something kept underwater, and the veins beneath it stand out in hard blue-black lines. His head has gone to skin and bone. The hair that used to be thick and black is thinning out in patches, and the teeth behind those lips have turned sharp and started to loosen in the gums. The eyes are the worst of it, because the clear black and white I remember has been flooded out to solid red. Even through the mirror, I can see something sad still sitting behind all that color. I pull off my jacket. The wound on my shoulder is a torn crater of flesh, or something took a bite out of me and did not let go politely. The blood around it dried a long time ago, but the hole underneath has never once tried to close. A normal man with an injury like that would have been dead within the day. I go about my business as if it is nothing, because I stopped being a normal man a month ago. A month ago I was at my desk working overtime when my vision went black and the world dropped out from under me. I thought I had finally killed myself with work. Then I opened my eyes on a street I had never seen in my life, in a city that was not the one I fell asleep in. Before I could get one clean breath of celebration out of my chest, the street stopped being calm. Explosions came one after another somewhere past the buildings, and the whole city turned over into screaming. I had been alive in this world for less than a minute, and all I could do was run with the crowd and hope the crowd knew where it was going. While I ran, I started seeing them mixed in with everyone else. People covered in blood opened up in ways that should have put them on the ground for good. Still walking, still grabbing at whoever came close enough. My brain simply stopped working. I had just transmigrated, so I honestly wondered whether I was hallucinating or whether I had wandered onto a film set with a very committed crew. Zombies, the kind that only exist in movies. Out on a real street in the middle of a real afternoon. It took about 4 seconds to learn that none of it was a trick, because while I was standing there being stunned, one of them landed on my back and bit down into my shoulder. I felt a piece of me come away. The pain dumped enough adrenaline into my blood that I got both hands on it, threw it down onto the pavement, and put its head out of shape against the concrete. Then whatever had gone into me through those teeth started spreading, and my head went light, and my body hurt so badly that standing became a negotiation. I got one hand over the wound and stumbled through the nearest door into a little corner store before my last thread of awareness went. I woke up on the floor of that store into a world that had already finished ending. Society was gone, and order was gone, and I had been in this new life of mine for one single day before it turned me into a bloodthirsty corpse. Here is the part I still cannot explain, because I turned. The hunger is in me, real and constant, and my shoulder has stopped reporting pain to me at all, but I am still in here. Whatever the bite did to everyone else, it left my mind exactly where it was. Now that mind gets to sit inside this body, while the craving and the hunger take turns leaning on my soul. Lucky for me, I passed out inside a store with a full refrigerator. For a month I have basically lived in it, taking the frozen meat out a little at a time, and letting it hold the worst of the hunger back. A month is long enough to be sure that nobody is coming. If the world were still standing anywhere, the army would have rolled into this city and cleaned it out by now. Instead, all I have watched through the front glass is the occasional survivor risking everything for a can of something, and most of them do not make it back. So today the hunger walks me over to the refrigerator, and when I open it, the smell that comes out is bad enough to make even me step back. I emit a decaying odor myself these days. That does not mean I want to eat something that has gotten there ahead of me. The city lost its water and power about a week into the outbreak, and enough time has passed now that even the meat behind that door is finally turned. I have been eating out of this refrigerator for a month, and what is left is scraps at the bottom. I had been planning to go out for supplies in a few days. The refrigerator has moved my schedule up for me. I pick a blood-stained shirt up off the floor and pull it on, then drop a crowbar into my backpack. The crowbar is not for defending myself, only for locks. I am a zombie, so the ones out on the street have no interest in me, and any human who sees me coming is going to turn around and run rather than start a conversation. Out of everyone left alive in Ganghae City, I am the only one who can walk down the middle of the road without thinking about it. I still put on a limp when I go out. If anyone with bad intentions ever works out that there is a zombie down here with a working mind, I would rather not find out what they do about it. So I drag one leg, keep my pace slow, and let a growl out every so often for the audience. I do steer around the other zombies though. After a month out in the weather, the smell coming off them is genuinely appalling, and it does terrible things to my appetite. I am not planning to go far today. The Sunshine community sits close to the store, so I start there and through the gate and into the first building that looks worth the trip. On the second floor, a front door is standing open. The room past it streaked with blood, one gnawed and half-rotted body on the floor where the owner of the apartment ran out of luck. I am halfway to the kitchen when I hear a baby crying through the wall. Ji-Sol is lying on her back staring at a ceiling, and she has run entirely out of hope. In her last life, she fought on every front there was, came through more near deaths than she could keep count of, and climbed all the way to the seat of the human Empress. It still was not enough. In a war that went on and on, she cut down alien powers beyond counting, and at the end of it, she died of sheer exhaustion under the matriarch of the Starfield bug race. After that, her mind came apart into something dark and quiet, and she has no idea how long she drifted in it. When her eyes opened again, she had not died in that battle after all. Or more accurately, she had died and something had put her back. She has no explanation for why she got a second life, and she cannot bring herself to feel grateful for it. It took her about 10 seconds to work out that she had come back as an infant. Worse, she has come back into the opening days of the apocalypse, 50 years before the point where she died. Reborn, with the single worst opening hand available. The outbreak has already happened. Both of the parents whose bodies gave her this one turned and died, and the only reason she is still breathing is that they locked her in the bedroom on their way out. That is not the emergency. The emergency is that this body has not eaten in 2 days, and the hunger has her head swimming and her stomach knotting itself into cramps. Whatever she used to be, none of it came back with her into these arms and legs. Forget clearing a street of zombies, because she cannot get herself across the crib. The dignified human Empress, she thinks, starving to death in a crib. There is no dignity available anywhere in that sentence. She lies there looking at the ceiling with her eyes stinging, and for a moment she genuinely regrets coming back. A rebirth that begins like this is worse than the clean death she had already earned on the battlefield. Then the doorknob starts turning. Someone on the other side is working it hard and fast, and she stops breathing. The door is locked, so after a while the rattling stops, and whatever was out there seems to lose interest. She lets the air out of her chest. The door comes off its lock with a sound that goes through the whole apartment. A zombie is standing in the doorway looking at her, and everything left in her heart goes out at once. The bedroom is nothing like the living room I just walked through. Out there it was all blood, and in here it is clean. There is a wedding photo hanging over the headboard, a young couple smiling out of it like they have never heard of any of this. A double bed sits in the middle with a dressing table and a nightstand beside it, all of it under a film of dust that says nobody has wiped anything down in a long while. Every table, every cabinet, every wardrobe, even the legs of the bed, has been wrapped in soft leather and padding. Somebody in this apartment loved their child enough to go around covering all the corners before the child was old enough to find them. There are toys and small clothes everywhere I look, and a bottle of milk gone bad on the nightstand. Beside the bed is a wooden crib, and the sound I heard through the wall came out of it. I walk over slowly. Inside is a baby with skin like new snow, red-lipped and bright, no more than 6 or 7 months old. Her eyes are very dark and very awake, and they are pointed straight at me. I tell myself I am imagining it, and I still cannot shake the impression that what I am reading in those eyes is sadness and something close to resignation. She has just watched a door come off its hinges and a corpse walk in through it, and she is not crying, not squirming, not making a sound. She is lying there watching me. Poor little one, I think. Being born at all should have been the good part. I thought I had drawn a bad hand. The little one in this crib has done considerably worse. At least I can feed and move myself, and nothing on the street wants to chase me. She can lie here, and any noise she makes brings the whole neighborhood up the stairs. I can read the rest of it off the furniture. This was a happy family of 3. The couple were young, and they loved their kid, and then the world changed faster than anyone could plan for. The blood out in the living room says her parents did not make it. The way that blood is smeared toward the bedroom door says that in the last minute they had, the 2 of them spent it getting this door shut and locked. And a baby this small, this helpless, in a city this far gone, has exactly 1 road ahead of her. Is this Empress going to die here? Ji-Sol thinks. Right now, like this. She lies in the crib on the edge of tears. After everything, after coming back from the dead, what is standing over her is not a parent but a walking corpse with the hunger already in its face. She had been praying that whoever came through that door would turn out to be a survivor. The ruined face looking down at her has taken care of that. In her last life, she could have swept an entire zombie tied off a plane with one finger. Now she is a bundle in a crib who cannot roll over. The rot coming off it fills her nose and turns her stomach. And between 2 days of hunger and the fear sitting on her chest, her head goes light and the ceiling begins to blur. Fine. If she dies, and it would hardly be the first time. Coming back as an infant into a world already this far gone is a start bad enough that dying early might be the mercy option. That is truly it, she thinks. And then hunger and terror finish the job and she goes out cold. The baby has gone completely still, and I stand there over the crib feeling something cold open up in my chest. Am I that frightening, I wonder? Please tell me I have not just scared a child to death. I get to the crib fast and put my hand near her face, and I do not let myself move again until I feel breath on my fingers. She is still with me. I look down at this small breathing thing in the middle of all this ruin, and a great many feelings go through me at once, none of which a corpse is supposed to have. Maybe it is this little one's fate not to die today. She still should never have been born into a world like this one. She has been hungry for a long time, and that much I can see. She is so far past empty that she has stopped being able to cry about it, and something in me twists at that in a way I was not expecting. And really, when I think about it, what is the difference between the two of us? We both landed in this strange world without asking for it, and we both got here just in time for the world to end. I stand there in that quiet bedroom feeling the strangest kinship I have ever felt with another person. I look at her, eyes shut, chest going up and down, and my head fills up with more than I can sort through. Then something in me settles, and I decide I am taking her. I am aware of how insane that is. To a bloodthirsty zombie, a human being is food, and a zombie adopting a human infant is not a thing that happens. But I never asked to be told what zombies do. I do not know why the infection took my body and left my mind sitting in it. And if I have to give that a name, fate will do as well as anything. Mostly it is that I know what I am. I never was the kind of man who could float above the world and not care. I arrived in this place with no time to even learn the name of the city before it collapsed. I have spent the month since then watching nothing but death, slaughter, and noise, with ruin in every direction I look. And then this. One small life, going in a dim room like the only lit thing for miles. I have been alone in a dead city, and that is the fact underneath everything else. The zombies out on the street are technically my own kind now, and there is nothing behind their eyes to talk to. The virus took my body, but it never once convinced me I was a monster, and I have gone right on thinking of myself as a person. That means a month of being neither human nor ghost, with nobody to say it to. There were nights this month when I thought seriously about ending it. Every morning I woke up into more dying, and then this one small life turns up in front of me like somebody lit a torch in the middle of the night. Standing in the light of it, I can suddenly see a direction to walk in. It is warm, and I had forgotten warm. At the very least, in the middle of all this, I am not by myself anymore. And then it occurs to me that the little one has not eaten in days, and I go from warm straight into a cold panic. So I make a decision that is either the best or the stupidest of my second life, and I go looking for milk. She fainted because she is starving, and I did not put that together until she was already out. The outbreak has been running a month, and by the state of the blood outside, her parents have been gone at least 2 days. She is 7 or 8 months old at the outside. Her body cannot break down anything solid, which means milk powder or nothing. The tin on the nightstand has been scraped empty, so nothing means going out. Strange thing, I have spent a month rotting quietly in a store, and now there is a job in front of me and I feel awake for the first time since I got here. For one moment, looking ahead instead of down, these red eyes of mine have something in them that is almost anticipation. I go out of the bedroom quietly and pull the broken door shut behind me, then drag the heavy sofa across the living room and wedge it in front of the door. It will not stop anything forever, and it does not have to. Nothing else out there has my head on its shoulders, and a zombie working purely on instinct will spend a very long time being confused by a sofa. The kitchen is empty, which makes sense once I think about it for 2 seconds. A month is plenty of time to eat a kitchen. Most likely the parents went out looking for more, and that is exactly how they died. So I go up. The security door on the 3rd floor is standing wide open, and whoever left through it left in a hurry. The hallway past it is painted in blood that dried a long time ago into a dark brown crust across the walls and the floor. There are pieces on the ground I am not going to describe to myself. When the outbreak hit, this unit did not get its door closed in time. The zombies came up the stairwell, and everyone who was trying to get down it stayed here. Some of what is left has been stripped to bone, and some of it has simply been pulled apart. Even with the door open, the smell in there is something. I dislike it, but I have been a corpse for a month and I can stand in it. The version of me from 2 months ago would have been out on the landing throwing up until something tore. A few steps higher, I find a zombie slumped at the turn of the stairs. Its chest and belly are open, and everything that used to be in there is gone. Its arms and legs have been chewed down far enough that all it can do is lie against the wall. From the stairs I can hear more of them above me, dragging and scraping along the floor, growling low. Most of the ones in this building are in similar condition, either collapsed where they are or hauling themselves along the stairwell on whatever they have left. Anyone else would take one look at this and lose their mind. I have been looking at it for a month, so I walk right past them and start letting myself into apartments. I go straight for the kitchens, since money is worthless now and doubly worthless to me. Milk powder turns out to be rare. I clear several apartments in a row without finding a single tin. I do turn up some raw meat that has not gone all the way over, though not much of it, thanks to the power being out for weeks. On the 5th floor, I put the crowbar through a lock, get the security door open, and stop in the doorway. There is a female zombie in the room in a white dress that has gone crimson all down the front. She comes at the noise fast, then gets close enough to see what I am, and turns away disappointed. I step inside. The living room floor is covered in blood, and lying in the middle of it is a human skeleton about a meter long. When the outbreak reached this apartment, the woman of the house turned, and the child she loved most in the world became the nearest available meal. I stand there for a long time without moving and without a single thought I want to keep, and what I am thinking about is the little one downstairs. If those parents had not gotten that bedroom door locked, this floor is what that bedroom would look like. Maybe there is a mercy hidden in it somewhere. The little one was born into the apocalypse, and the zombie who found her happened to be one who does not eat people. I go through the kitchen and finally get lucky. 2 sealed tins of milk powder and a couple of pounds of raw meat. That is held up. The people who lived here must have turned in the first days, which is exactly why their food outlasted everyone else's. I put all of it in my backpack. Then I look at the woman in the white dress, still pacing at the door. I stand there a while, then I walk around behind her and put the crowbar through the back of her head and let her stop. Somewhere far off, Gio becomes aware of something sweet going into her mouth. The smell of milk is thick enough to make her drift for a second, and her starved body takes over and starts pulling at it before her mind has any say in the matter. Enough goes in to give her something to work with, and she gets her eyes open. The first surprise is that she has not been eaten. The second is considerably harder to file. There is a zombie sitting over her, and it is feeding her with a spoon. She wonders whether she is dreaming, or whether the hunger has finally taken her somewhere fictional. Her eyes are wide open and fixed on this creature that is behaving like a wet nurse. In every memory she has of her first life, zombies were bloodthirsty monsters with nothing behind the eyes but appetite. When the outbreak came, a great many of her friends went into their mouths, and she was the one who had to deal with more than one companion after a bite took their mind. That is why she knew exactly what she was looking at when the door came open. Creatures like that do not spare a baby on account of her being a baby, and yet here she is, not only uneaten, but being fed, which leaves one theory standing, and she does not care for it at all. Does this thing intend to raise her first and eat her later? I get her eyes open again and something in my chest lets go. She is staring straight up at me, so I try to pull the corners of my mouth into something reassuring. I have no idea how it looks from down there. I do my best. Little one, from here on, in all of this, I am your family. Her parents are gone and she went days without eating, so her appetite is frankly ferocious. I get to the bottom of the bowl and she is still looking at me with those clear bright eyes, plainly not finished. There is no way a body that size holds that much. I say out loud without thinking. What comes out of my throat is a couple of thick growls, because I keep forgetting I cannot talk anymore. The growling startles her badly. Gio had just started to relax, and one low noise out of that throat puts her right back where she started. So this is it, she thinks, and he does want her full before he starts. She braces herself to be taken apart. Then the zombie stands up and walks out of the room. She hears stirring from somewhere out there. A minute later, he comes back with a fresh bowl of milk. Gio has been alive twice now and has never once encountered anything like this. She is still afraid, and her body has stopped consulting her about it, and she starts drinking again. 3 bowls before she is finally full. I look at the milk around her mouth, and I am fairly sure that if I mixed a 4th, she would find room for it. Does this little one not eat a great deal, I think? I've never been married and never had a child, but my understanding was that something this small comes with a smaller fuel bill. If I am adopting her, my overhead is going to be considerably worse than I budgeted for. I catch myself sighing about it and then have to laugh, because it finally makes sense to me why so many of my old colleagues worked the hours they worked. Raising a kid is not a joke. The one advantage I have is that it is the end of the world, so every shop in Ganghae City is now a free shop, and money has stopped being one of my problems. I make a note that future supply runs need to come back much heavier on milk powder, because her appetite is only going one direction. At least the stuff is sealed, so it will keep. Fed and watered, she settles back into the crib looking thoroughly pleased with herself. To Gio, after 2 days of nothing, the milk going into that starved little body may as well have been an elixir out of a legend. She watches him with real curiosity now, because she has never seen anything like this. A zombie is supposed to be appetite with legs. This one held that appetite down instead of tearing into her. That alone would be strange enough. Mixing powdered milk and delivering it by spoon is well past strange. She lived the entire arc of the apocalypse in her first life and came out the other side. She went through more danger and more near deaths than she can put a number to, all the way to the Emperor realm. As the human Empress, she has seen every kind of zombie there is, and the ones that died by her hand are beyond counting. Yes, in the later stages they evolve, and yes, some of the evolved ones eventually develop something like sentience. That is not a thing that happens now. The aura on the one in front of her is faint to the point of nothing, which makes him a freshly turned first-tier zombie. He is the most ordinary kind there is, the kind currently shuffling along every street in the city. Zombies at that level cannot wake up, because they are instinct in a body. There is no room in them for a mind. She looks at him and cannot make the arithmetic come out. Then again, she has been through enough in one lifetime that panic burns off fast. Whatever is going on, this one does not intend to eat her, at least not this afternoon, so there is no profit in spending her energy on dread. And if he does turn on her later, she will at least have gone with a full stomach, which is more than the crib was offering an hour ago. Not starving to death in a crib, that much, at least, is worthy of an empress. Then the warmth of a full stomach catches up with her, and her eyes get heavy. Days of hunger and fear had her nerves pulled tight, and now that the hunger is handled, they let go all at once. She goes under fast and deep, because whatever she used to be, she is a few months old, and lasting this long was already past her limit. Eat and then sleep, I think, watching her go out. Youth is wasted on the young. Having fed her myself, having actually kept something alive today, I feel a satisfaction I cannot remember the last source of. She is lying there with her face gone smooth and peaceful, and I stand over the crib feeling warm all the way through. I have not seen a living person in this city in a long time, let alone something this fragile. In a disaster, a newborn is nothing but a liability, and at the same time she is the only argument anyone here has left that things go on. Her breathing evens out, and I catch myself smiling. I am aware that my smile is not currently an asset. It is still the first peace I have felt since I landed in this world and watched it end. From tonight, in this city full of the dead, I am not doing it alone. You and I are in the same boat, I tell her, though nothing audible comes out. We both showed up in a strange world with no warning and walked straight into an apocalypse. Do not worry, because I will take care of you properly. I am not fooling myself about the difficulty. Resources are scarce and getting scarcer, and I am a corpse. If she had turned up in a human survivor base, she would have had a real chance. Attached to me, she is going to be walking into things neither of us can see yet. I decide anyway, whatever it takes, all of it, everything I have. For a month I have been running on nothing. Every day the same neither human nor ghost routine, death and rot in every direction. Tired of a world I had no reason to care about. This little one is not only a new life, she is the reason I have to keep going in it. And if she had been awake just then, she would have seen the eyes of the zombie standing over her. They were red all the way through, full of things a corpse has no business feeling, and absolutely settled. Sol sleeps like the dead, which under the circumstances is an unfortunate way to put it. Since the moment she came back, she has been living on fear, and this is the first time her mind has let go of the rope. 3 bowls of milk did what 100 reassurances could not. She cannot explain it. There is a bloodthirsty corpse standing an arm's length from her crib, and she sleeps peacefully through the whole afternoon. When she finally surfaces, she has no idea how long it has been, and her first coherent impression is that she is flying. Then she works out that she has been picked up. Everything this zombie does makes her more confused than the last thing, but at this exact moment her interest is narrower than that. She would like to know where he is taking her. I carry her out of the apartment, because leaving something a few months old alone in the apocalypse has precisely one ending, and I have decided against it. The building I passed out in when all this started is an old walk-up in the Sunshine community. 7 floors and no elevator, which is a nuisance for a man with groceries and an advantage for a man with a baby. I climb with her against my shoulder. I stop at the 3rd floor and think about it, decide it is not high enough, and keep going to the 7th. I cleared the stairwell last night, and every zombie that was still in this building is finished. The place is old, so there were fewer of them in here than there might have been, and most of what was left had already been chewed apart badly enough that whole limbs were missing. Zombies do not generally attack each other, and the exception is food, which has not been in this stairwell for weeks. Being a zombie with a working mind means I can move through them like a man walking through his own office. Everyone else has to run. They are hard to kill, and it is worth being precise about why. They have already died once, so pain is not available to them as an argument. Short of destroying the head, almost nothing you do slows them down. I have watched one with a shattered spine drag itself across a floor on its torso alone. It went into the same door over and over, still trying to get at whatever it could smell on the other side. A human body can do far more than a human normally lets it. We hold ourselves back on purpose, because a person who uses every bit of their strength tends to break their own arm doing it. A zombie has no such policy. That is the whole trick, and it is why they are stronger than we are. The difference is that a person uses tools. I am a zombie too, technically, and I would still very much rather not tear at those reeking corpses with my teeth. So last night I took the crowbar from the store and became for a few hours an extremely underhanded man. I came up behind every one of them in that stairwell and put the bar through the back of the skull, one after another, and none of them ever knew I was there. Not exactly heroic. Extremely effective. I had to do it before I could carry her up here in the open. These things are dead, but they are not dull. And where the living are concerned, their sense of smell is frighteningly good. It has been a month since any of them got a mouthful of a fresh human being. If a single one of them caught her scent in this stairwell, there would only have been one outcome. On the 7th floor, I put her down in the bedroom I cleaned out ahead of time. Top floor, which does a great deal to keep both smell and sound from spreading. And for now, that makes it as safe as anywhere in Ganghae City. Before this, I lived like a man who had stopped expecting anything. In the store where I collapsed. I would wake up, chew a few pieces of raw meat, and when I got bored, I would sit by the window and watch the ones outside go looking for people. Since I found her, the days have color in them. I do not want to be a zombie in front of this child. Some part of me wants my old self back, and being watched by her is enough to make me start reaching for him. The room was full of dust, and I already dealt with it. I have wiped myself down with bottled water and put on clothes that are actually clean. Aside from a face that would still stop traffic, and wounds that have not agreed to close, I look a great deal like a person. Best of all, the closets in here are full of baby clothes, and there are diapers, bottles, toys, and picture books besides. Whoever lived here had a child of their own, and most likely the family got out in a hurry when the outbreak came. I stand at the window and look at the wreckage of the city and stretch, slowly. Whether it is her doing or not, even that view has more in it than it had last week. And there is something else. My movements have been busy for 2 days straight, and busy is new. When I first turned, everything I did was stiff and wooden, which makes sense for a body that is technically deceased. Lately, my arms and legs have been coordinating. I am not what I was, but I can do ordinary human things again. Do all of them loosen up over time, I wonder? Or is this because I keep using mine? I file it away. There is a baby in the room, and my attention is not really available for anything else. I dig the diapers out of the wardrobe and get ready to change her. Absorbent, dry, no leaks, I think. Diapers are one of the great achievements of our species, and I will hear no argument. I am holding one up with what I suspect is a slightly ridiculous smile on my face. And then I get to work. Complicated things are still beyond me. This is not complicated. At which point Gyozo Sol's scalp goes cold. Being fed by a zombie was one thing. Being changed by one is not the same category of event. Feeding is instinct. Any creature can be induced to put food in a smaller creature. A diaper is not instinct. A diaper is a human invention, and no amount of animal impulse gets one on correctly. And the thought arrives in her mind that she cannot put back. Has this zombie kept its human consciousness? Once the thought is in there, it spreads. She goes back over the first time she saw him, and the details start rearranging themselves. Other zombies hit doors, claw at them, and throw themselves against them until something gives. This one did not. She remembers very clearly that the first thing that moved was the doorknob. The doorknob, which means before anything else, that zombie tried to open the door the way a person opens a door. Then, finding it locked, it went and got a crowbar and took the lock off. She missed all of this at the time, being 2 days hungry and thoroughly terrified. Going back over it now, the whole thing comes apart. Since when do zombies operate crowbars? Every ordinary first-tier zombie she has ever seen, the kind produced by a bite, is a beast with one instinct and no concept whatsoever of a tool. The idea of one failing to open a lock and then escalating to a pry bar is not something she can place anywhere in her memory of the last 50 years. And after all that, instead of eating her, he mixed powdered milk in a bowl and spooned it into her. She has watched hardened warriors take a bite and come out the other side, as nothing but appetite. She was the human Empress, and she has seen more zombies than most people have seen faces, and not one of them could open a door or feed a child. And today he changed her diaper. She would like someone to produce something more absurd than that. She does not believe they can. Every strange thing stacks in the same direction, and she stops hedging. The one in front of her has kept the mind he had as a man. It is the only explanation that survives contact with the evidence, and it is also the only reason she is still alive instead of scattered across that bedroom floor. Her heart is going like she has discovered a new continent. She traveled widely and knew a great deal in her first life, and she met powerful zombies and stranger things than zombies. She has never once encountered a creature the virus turned that kept its mind afterward. Only a human will could hold that hunger down. Then she stops. The zombie in front of her does not look remotely female. This Empress, she thinks, has just been changed by a man, Her eyes go very wide as the full shape of the thing lands on her. Her body was, a moment ago, thoroughly on display. Her emotions become somewhat difficult to manage. In her entire first life, she never so much as held a man's hand. Not before the apocalypse, and not during it. She reached the throne of the human empress with her lifelong purity absolutely intact, and it has now been ended by a diaper. She lies there on the edge of tears, wondering what exactly she did to earn a second life this eventful. Then, after a moment, her face smooths back out. Never mind. She should have died against the matriarch, and getting to exist at all is more than the ledger owed her. On top of that, the man responsible for the diaper is also the reason she has a pulse, so on balance she is ahead. Once she has thought it through, she stops caring, especially since she is currently a baby and not a revered empress, and the distinction does a lot of work. She watches him working away carefully at the fastenings, and something in her turns over. In the apocalypse, human decency went early, and order went with it. Struggling through it the first time taught her exactly how far people will go. Staying alive becomes the only rule anyone follows, and after that there is nothing anyone will not do. Selling out friends, selling out family, putting the person beside you between yourself and a zombie. Robbery, trafficking, every kind of swindle, all of it ordinary. She lost a great deal before she learned to survive in a world running on those terms. And this corpse is concentrating very hard on a diaper. For the first time since she came back, she feels something she associates with the world before the ending. Then a possibility occurs to her that she cannot shake off. Does this zombie think she is his daughter? The thought lands, and her chest tightens, and a story assembles itself in her mind whether she wants it or not. Suppose he had a daughter once, before all this. In the apocalypse, a human life is worth about as much as grass. When the tide came, fewer than 1 in 10 made it, and for ordinary people living in a city in those first days, there was effectively no hope at all. So most likely he never stopped reaching for her, and that reaching survived the virus. It came through death intact, and now it points at the nearest small thing in a crib, and that is why the creature standing over her behaves nothing like the ones outside. Everything he does for her is something he used to do for someone else. Even as a corpse, he cannot put her down. She watches him, stiff-limbed and clumsy, wrestling with the fastenings, and something in her aches on his behalf. Imagine having a family and a life, and then having the world end on top of it. Everything familiar changes. You yourself become one of the things that used to be a person, and you lose everyone you loved. And then the cruelest part. After all of it, you keep your mind. You are dead, and you are still in there, and you have to go on living inside that. Alone in a wrecked city, alone among the walking dead, with nothing there to talk to. He cannot live the blank, hungry existence the others live, because there is a person inside him. He cannot go back to human beings either, because they will point weapons at him and look at him the way you look at a thing. Neither side has a place for him. He is the loneliest man in the world, standing right in the middle of it. The world is enormous and empty, and there is nobody in it who will walk beside him. There are worse things than dying, she thinks, and that is one of them. She looks up at the zombie bent over her crib and lets out a breath. Before the throne, before any of it, she was a straightforward and kind-hearted girl, and that girl is still in there somewhere with a soft spot she never fully closed. So, if you are going to treat this empress as your daughter, then this empress will make it official. From today, you are this empress's zombie dad. The family that lived here almost certainly got out during the outbreak, which is why the door was standing open with no blood behind it. There was nothing but dust, and it came up with one pass of a cloth. With the place tidy, I am genuinely satisfied with the new home I have made for the little one and myself. We are high enough to see the whole complex from the window, and high enough that scent and sound do not travel the way they would 3 floors down. Nobody up here has to live listening for the stairs. Which brings me to food. Up to now I have been gnawing frozen raw meat in a corner store, and that arrangement has expired. She is small and she needs specific things, and the milk powder I hauled back is not going to last anywhere near as long as I would like. She can put away 3 large bowls at her current size. Her appetite is a fact I now plan around, and eventually she comes off milk entirely and needs actual food. So the nest needs stock. A lot of it. It is still daylight outside, so I lie down on the sofa instead. I am a zombie, and the ones on the street look straight through me, and none of that is what worries me. What worries me are the survivors in the shadows. Zombies have nothing in their heads but the urge to eat somebody, and as far as they are concerned, I am staff. Right now, with the streets belonging to them, I am the safest man in Ganghae City. If I go out hunting supplies in broad daylight and some survivor is watching from a window, I become interesting. However well I fake the walk, the behavior of every zombie around me gives the game away to anyone paying attention. Humans currently move like mice. They hide, and when they have to run, they run badly. A figure strolling down the middle of the road with an armful of groceries is going to raise questions. Questions I could live with. It is the follow-up I mind because the follow-up leads to this building, and to her. In this world, humans are not the safer of the 2 threats. The sun goes down and Ganghae City goes fully dark. With the power out for weeks, a city that used to glow all night is now a black shape with nothing moving in it. The only sound is a zombie somewhere calling out into all that quiet. For a survivor, nightfall is despair. Human eyes give up in the dark, and finding your way through an unlit city means a flashlight or night vision gear, and both of those announce you. Zombies do not have that problem, which means neither do I. Night is the best cover I own. I change, shoulder the backpack, take the crowbar I keep for locks, and get ready to go. Before I leave, I shut the bedroom door and drag a large cabinet across the mouth of the stairwell on the 7th floor, so nothing can wander up here and get in. The ones out there cannot solve a cabinet. Even if something gets into the stairwell, that is where it stops. Besides, this building is already cleared, and zombies from outside rarely have the ambition to climb 7 floors. She is small, and she does not make much noise. And I am not only thinking about zombies. I spent a month at that store window watching what happened after everything came apart. At the start, most people held on to some composure, and even some kindness. Then the dying got worse and the food ran out, and what had been sitting underneath came up. The kindest ones went first, because the kindest ones kept stopping to help. A few days in, I could hear women screaming on the street often enough that I stopped needing to guess what it meant. 2 weeks in, the water and power went. After that, people started trading their bodies for a meal. Pushing your own companion toward a zombie to buy yourself a head start became so common it stopped being a story. I watched survivor teams that could not find food and could not work up the nerve to face what was on the street, turn their knives on each other instead. I turned into a zombie, and I have never once hunted a human being. Some of those people never turned into anything, and they were eating their friends inside of a month. They are not people anymore in the only sense that matters, and they would not make an exception for a child. If any of them found out what is in this room, I cannot let myself finish the thought. For one meal, they would do anything. There is a heavy anti-theft gate on the ground floor of every building here. I go down, pull it shut, take the chain from the side and lace it tight before I go anywhere. The neighborhood around us is all housing. No single apartment holds much, but there are a great many apartments and it adds up fast. I fill the climbing pack until the zippers complain, and then simply carry the overflow in my arms. If anyone out there had night vision gear tonight, they would have gotten a strange view. A bloodthirsty zombie moving carefully down a black street with a large stack of infant formula balanced against his chest. Then something makes me look up, and the moon has turned red. It is hanging up there soaked through like somebody dyed it, and against all that silence, it looks genuinely wrong. In the bedroom on the 7th floor, Ji-Yo Sol wakes into an empty room. What, she wonders, is Zombie Dad doing wandering around in the middle of the night? She also needs to pee. Then she remembers the diapers and decides that the invention is, on reflection, magnificent. Then she catches the light coming through the window that never quite closed, and everything else drops away. The moon over Ganghae City is red, a blood moon, and tonight is the night of the blood moon, which means the age of global evolution starts now. I stand in the middle of the street looking up at it and feel entirely out of my depth. Ji-Yo Sol is an empress who has been through all of this once and knows exactly what a red moon means. I came here by transmigration, out of a world where the worst thing that ever happened to me was a deadline, and I have no idea what I'm looking at. What I do is find a corner, set down the formula, and open one of the tins. The powder inside is still white, and I let out a breath I did not know I was holding. Thank goodness, I think. I thought I had come down with pink eye on top of everything else. My eyes are fine, which means the moon has genuinely turned red. I gather everything back up and keep walking toward home. In a world that already produces zombies, a red moon is not the hardest thing to accept. Silent night, empty city, roaring in the distance, and a full moon the color of blood. That is simply the complete apocalypse set. I feel no dread about it at all. If anything, it strikes me as overdue. I watched a great many of these movies in my first life, and I know the standard dressing when I see it. So I ignore the sky and turn into a hamster instead. Because I am dead, I do not really get tired, and I am considerably stronger than I was alive, so I run load after load back to the 7th floor. Formula, bottles, diapers, everything an infant might conceivably need, in quantities that stop being reasonable somewhere around the 3rd trip. The apartment fills up. Then I move on to snacks, and toys, and since I am there, children's books. The world is ended, and I still intend to teach her to read and speak. However poor you are, you do not economize on a child's education. My mother said that. She was right about most things. Ji-Yo Sol watches a stack of college entrance exam prep books come through the door, and her scalp crawls. If she is remembering correctly, she is not yet 1 year old. Beginning exam preparation at this stage seems ambitious. It is also, she would like to point out, the apocalypse, and she is unclear on who exactly is administering the college entrance exam. Yuk-cheon is not troubled by any of that. If he thinks it might be useful, it comes home. She is an infant who cannot sit up, and he has hauled in several 50-pound sacks of rice. Since turning, he has discovered he can lift one in each hand without any trouble at all. Rice is good, he reasons, because rice fills you up. The question of how to cook rice with no water and no power, or when precisely a child under 1 will be eating it, is outside the scope of tonight. It will come in handy eventually, because everything does. None of it tires me. If anything, I feel better with every trip, because all of this is groundwork, and groundwork means there is going to be something built on it. Once I start moving things, I find I cannot make myself stop. By the end, the apartment is close to 100 square meters of solid supplies. I am on my 4th run when my body goes wrong. I put down what I am carrying and get a shoulder against the nearest wall. There is heat inside me. Real heat, moving, the kind of scorching that belongs to something with a working circulatory system, and I have not had one of those in a month. It shocks me more than the moon did, because I am a corpse. What is in my veins stopped moving a long time ago and went a thick brownish black, and every part of me runs cold. This heat is completely foreign and horribly familiar at the same time. And for 1 second, standing against that wall, I feel like I am about to cry, because this is what being alive felt like. Then my brain starts itching. Not a surface itch, something deep, spreading, building, as though my skull is about to come apart from the inside. I get down into the corner with both hands locked around my head while my whole body shakes, and I have no idea what is being done to me. Is the human consciousness trial expiring, I think, and am I about to become one of them? I have just found a reason to keep going. I have hope and a goal, and someone upstairs who will not survive a week without me, and I am not prepared to be switched off now that I have all that. So I set my teeth and hold on, red eyes open, and whatever is coming can come. I do not know what I am turning into. I only know I intend to still be in here when it finishes. What I do not notice, crouched in that corner, is that the black in my veins is draining toward a dull blue. The wound on my shoulder, dried and weathered and repulsive for a month, has quietly started to close. It is not what it was before the bite. It is no longer the open hole it has been. My fingernails are changing. The loose, sharp teeth are settling back into something like order, and the hair that fell out in patches when I turned, leaving me with a look I have privately been calling monastic, begins coming back in thick. Across the whole dark city, roars go up one after another. Under that red light, zombies everywhere are shaking the way I am shaking. And in the places where people are hiding, some of those people begin to run hot too. Their blood moves faster and their organs work harder, and muscle tightens across their frames while their bones quietly become harder to break. On the 7th floor of the Sunshine Community, the red light comes through the gap in the window and lies across the crib. Geo Cell's small body starts to tremble, and heat rises through all of it. I have no idea how long I am out. When I open my eyes, I am lying in the street. What exactly was that? I am not a man who spooks easily, and I know something has happened to me. The way that light came down and went into me is not an experience I am going to misplace. Going by the rules of every science fiction film I have ever seen, a moon like that opens a new era. So why do I not feel any different? I look around, and gravity is where I left it. The wrecked buildings are as wrecked as they were before I went down. I shake my head, give up on it, and start collecting the supplies I dropped all over the pavement. Then I notice, I did not catch it while I was getting up. Now that I am moving properly, my movements have become agile. That word is doing a lot of work, so let me be exact. A month as a corpse got me as far as simple actions with stiff limbs. What I have now is coordination, real coordination, and underneath it a great deal of strength that was not there yesterday. I look down and the black lines under my skin have faded out to almost nothing. Even my fingernails have gone back towards something a living person would recognize. The wind moves, and I put a hand to my head on instinct, and discover that the bald patch is growing in. It is still a substantial improvement. When I pick the supplies up off the ground, I find I am close to twice as strong as I was. I look at the zombies wandering the street and see the same thing has happened to all of them. Faces that were hideous yesterday look noticeably more like faces today. So the blood moon changed my daily routine after all, and I find I am not remotely upset about it. Quietly, I am pleased. I got dropped into a strange world and spent a month in a fog, and now something is finally happening. Repeating the same day forever gets old, even for a corpse. It also tells me this world is not the simple place I took it for. Zombies and a virus. Fine, I can hold that in my head. A moon that turns red on schedule is a different kind of claim. Whatever started this outbreak, it was never only a virus. I gather everything up and head for home, and as I pass one of them, something odd goes through me. It is standing there with a ruined face, letting out a low roar every so often, and I can feel a thread running between us. I have been single too long, I think, and that is absolutely not what is happening here. I shake my head so hard I nearly drop the formula. Then I look properly, and it is not affection, thank goodness. It is that there appear to be a great many invisible threads coming off my mind, and they run into this thing standing in front of me. The zombies out here are hollow, with nothing home behind the eyes, and it seems I can push my own intent down those threads, the way a hand works a marionette. That is interesting enough to be worth testing immediately. I focus, and the connection between us pulls tight, and the zombie that was swaying along a second ago stops dead. I tell it to go forward, then back, then to raise its hand. Anyone watching this street right now would need a moment. There is a zombie out here doing chest expansion exercises. I cannot keep my mouth from curling up, because it does exactly what I tell it. Whatever last night was, it was not nothing. That red light changed me, and more than me, it changed all of them. And my situation seems to be special, because my body got stronger and I also got this. I decide to call it corpse control. I am a grown man with a new toy, and I proceed accordingly. I run that zombie through everything I can think of, including dancing and basketball, without a basketball. A brief and undignified attempt at rapping, which is where I discover the format's main limitation, because it still cannot talk. There is no shortage of test subjects on this street, so I work through several. After enough repetitions, I establish the rules. I can hold 2 at once on separate actions, and no more than 2. Push the distance too far and the commands stop landing cleanly. My guess is that this scales with mental energy, which is the term the films and the web novels always used, and I have nothing better to go on. I decide to call the ones I take corpse puppets, since that is precisely what they are. No thoughts of their own, and entirely at the end of a string. By the time I stop, I am genuinely tired, which is when I remember the little one is at home by herself. I have been hauling supplies all night, and then I stood under that moon for a long time, and then I went down, and I do not know how much of the night is left. She is an infant. She does not need a zombie to find her in order to get into trouble. So I take Corpse Puppet 1 and Corpse Puppet 2, load the supplies onto their backs, and move. Having 2 of them behind me carrying everything is, I have to admit, a significant upgrade. Under my direction, limbs that were stiff an hour ago handle fairly complicated instructions. I finally understand what it feels like to be the boss. Having staff is wonderful. I look at the 2 of them plodding along behind me, expressionless, hauling everything I own, and I nod to myself in real satisfaction. I have no idea how to make this ability stronger. If I could hold a whole crew of these, keeping the little one fed would stop being a problem at all. I let myself picture it for a second. Me, walking through Gonghae City with a column of zombie minions at my back, which is frankly a look. At the entrance to Building 5, I send both of them up to the 7th floor with the load, then bring them back down and station them on the ground floor. Humans do not scavenge where zombies are standing, and zombies do not attack each other, so a pair of them at my door works as eyes and ears without any of the drawbacks. If anything happens, I will know the moment it happens, and I can fight through them from wherever I am. Best of all, guards like these do not eat, drink, sleep, or expect to be paid. With those 2 downstairs, the little one is a great deal safer than she was yesterday. Up on the 7th floor, Ji-Yo-So comes out of the sleep the red moonlight put her in. Her eyes clear, and immediately an enormous volume of information comes pouring into her mind, and she knows this feeling intimately. She turns her gaze on a fallen leaf sitting on the windowsill. Her eyes sharpen, and with no wind anywhere near it, the leaf lifts off the sill into the air. It comes drifting into the room and hangs there for 2 full seconds before it settles. Anyone who walked in on that would have needed a chair. The blood moon has given her an ability, and the ability is telekinesis. Objects move because she decides they should. She can lift them, hold them, pull something to her hand across a room, all of it well outside anything the ordinary rules allow. And then the part that genuinely shocks her. Alongside the telekinesis, the power she carried through her entire first life has come back to her, and that power is time control. She remembers that in her first life, people eventually started studying where awakened abilities come from. Case after case, experiment after experiment, until somebody put forward the idea that awakening is tied to the soul, and that different souls produce different powers. Nobody ever proved it cleanly at the time. She can confirm it now. She died and came back, and her soul made the trip unchanged, which is exactly why time control came with her. She realizes, stronger this time than she was before. Rebirth handed her telekinesis on top of everything she already had, which makes her a dual talent awakener, and both of those talents are the kind that can be taken all the way to the top. Something imperial and entirely unbothered goes through her eyes. In her first life, she rose through the whole apocalypse on time control alone. Grown to its later stages, that power let her drag an entire battlefield into stillness, accelerate herself, and slow her enemies. She could decide the shape of a war by deciding how fast it was allowed to happen. It is the most heaven-defying thing she has ever held, and it is what carried her to the throne. This time she has that, and she has telekinesis besides. And on an apocalyptic battlefield, the ability to move objects with a thought is enormously practical, on offense and defense both. If she had held it the first time around, fighting several opponents at once would never have troubled her. Then her mind gives a hard pulse of pain and the fantasy stops. Her whole body goes limp and her breathing turns fast and shallow. 2 talents, and 1 considerable drawback. She is a few months old, and this body is nothing. She used her ability for a matter of seconds, and it has already emptied her out, which is a baseline far below what she is used to. Even so, she is delighted, because a low starting reserve is a growth problem and growth problems solve themselves. Telekinesis will strengthen as she strengthens. She is an infant now, and if she is allowed to grow up, what she becomes will be many times more dangerous than what she used to be. 2 prodigy-grade talents, and that is the part that matters. Everything else is time. She lets herself imagine holding real power again, and she thinks about meeting the matriarch of the Starfield bug race a second time, and about how that conversation might go differently. Then she hears movement outside the room. Zombie Dad is back. A zombie carrying a human mind is a genuinely rare thing. She sat on the throne of the human Empress and never once met one. Lying there on the bed, she finds she is curious. Because if awakening really is a matter of the soul, and if there is a soul in there at all, then a low-level zombie who kept his mind is a candidate like anyone else. She wonders whether the blood moon reached him too, out there in the dark, and whether he came through it evolved. She would very much like to see what a zombie with a human consciousness and an awakened ability turns out to look like. I come up the last flight fast, and the wardrobe I dragged across the mouth of the stairwell is exactly where I left it. The breath I let out is the first easy one I have taken since the moon changed color. I had gone out for supplies and come home through a blood moon and a blackout of my own. The whole way back I had been building worse and worse pictures of what I would find up here. That worry is the first thing in a month that has felt like it belonged to a living man. For 4 weeks I moved through this city without caring what happened next. To me, or to anything else. Now there is a room at the top of a building that I need to be alright. Whatever the red light did to me, it left me strong enough that the wardrobe slides aside like a chair. The little one is on the bed with her eyes wide open, looking straight at me. I have never been in a relationship in either of my lives, so I have nothing to compare this to. It still lands on me like something I have been carrying for years. Her eyes are clear and bright, black and white the way eyes are supposed to be. Nothing at all like the flat red I see in every face on the street. In a city where everything has gone rotten, a quiet baby watching me from a bed feels like it is scrubbing the air clean. Everything the evolution stirred up in me settles the moment I am back in this room. She has been awake a while and she must be starving, so I go make up a bottle. There is no power and no running water in Ganghei City, which rules out boiling anything, and I am certainly not lighting a fire in an apartment I intend to keep living in. Bottled water and powdered formula is the best arrangement available. It is the apocalypse, and the standard is whether it keeps her alive. While I am mixing it, Ji Sol is studying her zombie dad. Something about him has changed since yesterday. His skin has come back toward a living color, and the whole shape of him reads more human than it did, though the change is small and it does not match anything she remembers. In her memory, the process is orderly. A zombie starts as an ordinary first-stage zombie, which is simply a person the virus is finished with, and that is exactly what her zombie dad was. Then the blood moon arrives and the whole world turns strange. And nothing turns stranger than the zombies. From there they branch, and which branch they take depends on what they were. One branch goes up. A body that stood a little under 2 meters swells to 2 or 3, with muscle piling on past anything a living frame would carry. The skin toughens into something closer to hide, and the bones outgrow every animal she can name. On a battlefield they absorb nearly everything thrown at them. Road barriers get walked through rather than climbed. Survivors in her first life called them tank zombies, because that is what one is. A main battle tank that decided to walk, and most camps could not scratch one with the weapons they had. Another branch goes sideways instead of up. Those do not bulk out. Everything goes into the limbs and into claws that come in curved like blades, and the muscle in them works like coiled spring, so they jump absurdly and move faster than anything that size should. They climb walls. They cross ceilings upside down. They twist in midair to change direction, and survivors found them nearly impossible to hit. That is not even the bad part. The bad part is what happens to the tongue, which mutates into something that extends and retracts on its own, and comes out hard enough to break brick. She remembers it precisely, because a camp she joined in her first life was led by a genuinely formidable fighter. He died with his blade already swinging, because nobody had warned him about the tongue. Survivors named that branch the liquor, for the obvious reason. Past those two, it gets stranger. Some grow bone out of the spine, and the bone spreads membrane, and the membrane becomes wings that work. A rare few come out elemental and throw wind blades or fireballs or spears of ice, the way an awakened human does, and in the later years, those are the ones that gut whole camps. The point is that all of them show it early. Even in the first days after a branch takes, the body announces which way it went. She looks at the zombie feeding her, and there is nothing to announce. He is a little less ghastly than he was. That is the whole report. Ji Zal finds this genuinely disappointing, because she had been hoping to meet a different father this morning. Anyone would want the person keeping them alive to be strong. Surviving out here is brutal arithmetic, and anyone who cannot hold their own gets subtracted early. She had reason to hope too. Her zombie dad is already an exception, a zombie carrying a human mind, and she sat on the throne of the human Empress for years without meeting one. She had assumed something that rare would show her something else remarkable. Apparently not. Only constant evolution keeps anything alive in this world. Ordinary first-stage zombies are frightening now, in these early days, when survivors are still panicking at the sight of them. Later on, a zombie that never evolved and never got stronger is simply material for someone else's advancement. Poor zombie dad, she thinks, with real pity. When this Empress grows up, let her be the one to protect him. Ji-Yo went through the apocalypse once, and it never took her principles off her. Living rationally out here was never the same thing as going cold all the way through. She came out of that first life, the sort of person who paid back every kindness and settled every debt. That was before she was reborn into a body that cannot roll over, let alone defend itself. If she had not landed in front of this particular strange zombie, she can trace her own ending without effort. Either something finds her and pulls her apart, or nobody finds her at all and the crib takes longer. Her zombie dad did not simply save her life because he also took on the raising of her. And those are two separate debts. She would like someone to name another mindless zombie that could sit in a room with a living human and hold its hunger down. Then she would like them to explain one that goes out into a dead city, gathers supplies for an infant, mixes formula and administers it with a spoon. Ji-Yo repays kindness on principle. A debt this size is not something she intends to leave open. So it does not matter that her zombie dad may turn out to be thoroughly mediocre, an ordinary low-level zombie and nothing more. She has already decided, quietly and completely, that she will protect him for the rest of his existence. The old line about being raised when you are small and providing when they are old is not, in her view, a saying. It is an invoice. And she comes back knowing things. She knows, for instance, the routes by which a zombie gets stronger. Most of them climb by devouring. Flesh and blood from something living becomes fuel, and a zombie eating a human or an animal is running a crude but functional evolutionary engine. There is a second route, and the second route is better. Any zombie that has successfully awakened an ability forms a crystal core in its brain, whatever branch it took, and that core is where the ability lives. Ordinary zombies have none, which is the only reason humanity survived the first year. If every shambling body on the street carried a core, there would be nothing left to defend. Ji-Yo already has the shape of a plan. Her father's physique is unremarkable, and that is a solvable problem, because she happens to be an empress. She has never lacked confidence in herself. In her first life, she went forward blind, one step at a time, with no map and no warning, and she still cut her way up to the throne. This time she has the memories and the experience, and she has an entire second awakened ability she did not have before. She fully expects to grow faster and further than she did the first time. And when she is grown, she will go and take the crystal cores out of every evolved zombie she can reach. If it takes a mountain of them, she will stack that mountain and push her dad all the way up to an advanced zombie. That rank changes everything. An advanced zombie can speak instead of roar. And more than that, the body reorganizes itself and comes back so close to human that the difference stops mattering. Do not worry, my zombie dad, she thinks. This Empress is a growth investment, and raising her will not leave anyone out of pocket. Then she licks the milk off the corner of her mouth because it is very good milk. I have no idea what is going on behind those eyes, but she is staring at me with such total concentration that I have to laugh. The pupils are wide and clear, sharply black against sharply white, and it is a ridiculous amount of face for something that small. In neither of my lives have I ever looked at an infant from this close. There is something built into them, some default setting of hope, and I find I do not mind being taken in by it. Just grow up in peace, I tell her. The outside is not your problem. Then I explain about the staff. I have engaged 2 new bodyguards currently posted at the ground floor door, and their terms are excellent. They do not eat or drink, and they require no accommodation, with no expectation of insurance or a housing fund. Best of all, their attendance is flawless, since they cannot get sick, cannot oversleep, and have no personal days to take. With those 2 downstairs, our situation improves considerably. I sit by the bed and watch her, and everything in me goes quiet and gentle. A shame she cannot see any of it, since these eyes of mine are still flooded solid red. Grow fast, I tell her. Your father brought home a lot of toys this trip. Dolls, teddy bears, a whole toy train set, and a box of transforming robot figures. The robots were for me. She is welcome to them if she wants them, and in case anyone worries she might grow up idle and unambitious. I have also secured a full set of college entrance exam prep books. When the time comes, we will keep them, and if that does not work out, we can always keep them for firewood. Somewhere in the last 2 days, I stopped thinking of her as a child I picked up by accident and started thinking of her as my daughter. I have never been in a relationship, and I have certainly never had a child, and I would still put myself forward as the happiest father currently operating. Something got added to my shoulders while I was not paying attention. And the word for it is responsibility. This small thing, breakable as porcelain, is now the whole of what I have and the whole of what I am protecting. Then it hits me that I have been feeding her for days and I have not given her a name. She is a person. People get names. I sit there genuinely stumped, because naming a child is not a problem I have ever had to solve. I go through every poem I ever memorized, and every good word I can dredge up out of the old life. The surname is easy, because she is my daughter and she takes mine. Yuk, then, and Yuk what? Nothing comes to me at all. Then I look out the window, and I have it. We live on the 7th floor, and this room is the first home either of us has had in this world. So I am going to call her Yuk Chill Chill. Chill for 7, twice over. Chill Chill for short. That way, however far this goes, and whatever happens to us, her name will always put me back in this little home on the 7th floor, and the days we spent in it. Somewhere between being a washed-out young man in an office and standing in this bedroom, my whole outlook has changed. I am not drifting through my own life on my own behalf anymore. I tell Chill Chill not to worry. Her father is going to let her grow up without carrying any of this. Even in the apocalypse, I will find you a clean patch of the world and hold it open. I look over the night's hall in daylight and I am satisfied with myself. Every cupboard, every shelf, and every empty corner of this apartment is packed with what I dragged up those stairs. Chill Chill's appetite is genuinely impressive, and even so, this will feed her for a very long time, because however much she puts away, she is still an infant whose entire diet is formula. With the stores handled, I decide to stay in for a while. Staying alive is the only real objective out here. The fact that I woke up able to steer other zombies with my mind tells me this world runs on rules I have not been shown. A virus that strengthens a body I can accept. Time, exposure, something in the blood, fine. A man reaching into another creature's skull with his attention and driving it like a machine is not something a virus does. That moon has been sitting badly with me since it came up. If it rewrote me, I have no reason to assume it left everything else alone, and I have no idea what the others out there came back with. So I will keep my head down a little longer. I transmigrated into this world and got bitten inside the hour, which suggests my luck does not merit any gambling. After Chill Chill's feed, I decide to watch from inside the building for a few days, and only go out once I understand what changed. I have supplies enough to be patient. This world is a stranger to me, and it keeps changing while I'm looking at it. If it were only me, I could live with being neither human nor ghost until something finally ended it. It is not only me anymore. Chill Chill is here, which means I have to get stronger. I go into the living room and pick up the machete. It came out of an apartment on the 6th floor while I was clearing this building. A steel blade about half a meter long. Going by what I know of this city, blades like this were illegal here, and I have no idea what the previous owner did for a living. Whatever it was, he kept it sharpened. The spine is straight, the body of the blade is thick, and it is built for long stretches of chopping. The old rules are not in force anymore, so I have inherited it. Since the blood moon, along with the mind trick, my body has been rebuilt. My coordination is now indistinguishable from a living person's, which is a considerable upgrade from a month of stiff limbs and simple movements. When I swing this thing, it goes where I send it, and the edge throws silver across the room. I never studied a blade in my life. I do not have to, because a zombie's frame is already stronger than a man's, and mine has been strengthened again on top of that. So I work through everything I ever saw in a martial arts novel or a film, badly and with enthusiasm, and the machete cuts the air hard enough to crack. I am extremely satisfied with it. That edge makes it a serious close-quarters weapon, and it is a different instrument entirely from a crowbar. I am confident I can open a zombie's head with one stroke. The whole difference between people and animals is that people pick things up and use them. The ones outside have claws and teeth and no idea that anything else exists. I kept my mind, so I intend to fight like something that has one. In the bedroom, with her mental energy recovered, Ji Yoseol goes back to her abilities. She has 2, and they are not equally convenient. Time control came with her out of the last life, and she knows it the way she knows her own hands, so it costs her nothing to use beyond the reserve to run it. Telekinesis is new, and new means she has to learn it from the beginning before it will do anything useful. She gathers her mental energy and puts all of it on a single silver needle lying on the nightstand. The needle lifts, it comes up slowly and hangs, and then it slides through the air along a path she is drawing for it, and it settles into a hover above her head. It is a preposterous thing to be looking at from inside a crib. Her control is slow at this stage, and she is not troubled by that, because with enough practice, this becomes a way to kill someone without anybody ever seeing what did it. As her reserve grows, so does the weight she can move. Today it is a needle. Before long it will be a knife. 2 days go by like that. In the living room, a zombie works a machete through drills he half remembers from films. In the bedroom, an Empress in a onesie teaches a needle to fly, and both of them are doing it for the other one. Then, on the third day, right after her feed, I hear something outside that should not be happening. I go to the balcony window and look down, and two zombies on the street are tearing into each other. They are loud enough that I caught it from the 7th floor, which tells me how hard they are going at it. What bothers me is that I cannot see a person anywhere near them. I have spent a month among these things, and I understand their operating principles. They are bloodthirsty and they are relentless. And they are also, in every practical sense, machinery. What starts them is the smell of a living human. Left alone, they do not bother each other, and the one exception is a fight over food. There is no food down there. That is why I am standing at this window genuinely unsettled, because what I am watching does not fit anything I have learned since I got here. Something is wrong with both of them. From the 7th floor, I cannot make out detail. Only that one is built considerably heavier than a zombie should be, and the other is moving considerably faster. That is enough to put a cold line up my back. So I go down to about the 4th floor, where I can finally see the street properly. They are nothing like the ones I deal with daily. The first stands close to 2 meters and is put together like a piece of construction equipment. When it swings, the muscle behind the swing folds a car door flat. I make a small noise at that, because if it ever connected with me, I would be a bag of broken parts before I finished being surprised. The second one is slim by comparison, and the difference is in the hands. An ordinary zombie tears at things with claws and teeth, and honestly the results are not far off what an angry person could manage, since the virus tends to leave the body rotting anyway. This one has 5 blades on the end of each arm. It brushes a car in passing and leaves 5 cuts down the panel. I stand in a stairwell watching them, and I go cold all the way through. I have spent 2 days worrying about what that moon did to everything else, and 2 days indoors because of it. I have just been shown that this was the best decision I have made in this world. Either one of these would go through me without slowing down. The heavy one does not have the blades, but its arms are something else. When the two of them collide, the sound coming off those forearms is metal on metal. I could not begin to describe the biology involved. They are simply operating at a level I am not on. 2 days of machete drills had me believing I could handle ordinary zombies without much trouble. That was probably true, and it is also completely beside the point, which is the lesson currently being delivered on the street below. If Ji-Yo's soul were at this window, she could name both of them on sight. The heavy one is a tank zombie, and the fast one is an agile zombie, and neither is rare. They are simply the 2 branches that make the early apocalypse miserable for survivors. I do not have names for them, and I do not need names to work out that both of them caught the same blood moon I did and came out of it changed. What I can see is that we did not come out of it the same way. I got something mental. I can reach into an empty head and drive it, and my own body got a moderate upgrade on the side. These 2 went entirely into the flesh, and they went in different directions inside that. One stacking mass and defense, the other stacking speed and cutting power. Against ordinary zombies, either of them is a massacre with legs. I am so glad I stayed inside. If I had spent these 2 days out on the street the way I spent the previous month, something like this would have taken me apart before I understood what was happening. My awakening was in the mind. In a straight fight, I am nothing. This world is considerably worse than I had it filed under. I have been quietly pleased with myself since the evolution, and I can feel that draining out of me while I watch. I needed reminding what I am actually living in. What I still cannot work out is why they are fighting at all. Zombies do not eat zombies. In a month I have never once seen it, and these 2 are the first. Are they starving out here, I wonder? That cannot be it, because zombie meat is terrible. I am a zombie and I would not eat me. The blood in this body dried up weeks ago, and biting into one of these things has to be roughly like chewing on old jerky. Down on the street it is getting loud, and several parked cars have been beaten out of shape by the 2 of them. Then I see it turn. The tank only has to swing to do damage, and the fast one, for all its cutting power, cannot get through that guard. Worse, it cannot afford a single mistake, because its own frame is thin and one clean hit ends it. Its blades score those arms and never reach anything vital, and a fight it cannot finish is a fight it is going to lose. It loses. The tank catches it square and sends it off its feet, then closes the distance like a truck rolling downhill. A few more swings and the fast one's spine gives out. One more and its head is gone, and the impact takes the car underneath it as well. I am watching from a stairwell, and I still feel that one in my chest. Then the tank does something that changes my understanding of everything. It reaches into the wreck of the other one's skull and pulls out a small white crystal core. And the second I see it, something in me stands straight up and wants it. I have no idea what it is. My body seems to, and my body has never wanted anything this way, not even in the first days. Every instinct I have is telling me that if I got that thing inside me, it would change me, which reframes the entire fight, because that is what they were doing. They were not feeding down there, but harvesting. The tank swallows it, hammers both fists against its own chest, and starts roaring. There is nothing confused in the sound. It is triumphant. Whatever was in that core, It landed, because the thing goes back down the street putting its fists through the cars it already ruined, working off more energy than it knows what to do with. Then it plants itself and roars again, and the sound rolls down the whole block. Every ordinary zombie within earshot stops. Then, one after another, they start moving away, and none of them looks like it made a decision. Something older than decisions is telling them to be elsewhere. I file that away, because I am also a low-level zombie, and I am apparently supposed to be afraid of this thing. The tank shoulders its way into a shop across the street and does not come out. I wait, and I keep waiting, and all I get is the occasional roar from inside. It has gone to ground to digest what it took, which means it will be in there a while, and it will not be the same size when it comes out. I still do not know what a crystal core is. I know that it is worth killing for, and I know my body agrees. Thinking back to that pull I felt, I get a little unsteady even now. When I turned, I inherited the craving for flesh. Looking at a living person used to come with a suggestion attached, and the only reason I never acted on it is that a human will is a heavier thing than an appetite. Over the weeks, the craving has faded until I can barely locate it. That crystal core went past all of it. Whatever it is, my body wants it more than it ever wanted blood. So I make the obvious guess. Eating the cores out of other zombies does something significant, and most likely it strengthens whatever ability the evolution gave you. That would explain two creatures of completely different builds and completely different powers trying to kill each other over a chip of white crystal. They were not fighting for territory or for food. They were fighting to level up. If I could get the tank zombie's core into me, I might be able to hold more than 2 puppets. That is the ceiling I am living under right now. 2. My mental reach is not much, and after what I just watched on the street, I need it to be much more, and I need it soon. Not for me. There is a child upstairs whose entire survival strategy is that I keep getting stronger. The problem is what I got. I steer zombies. My body improved a little, and a little is not in the same conversation as what is sitting in that shop across the road. That thing has arms like tempered steel and a frame 2 meters and change. The other one had claws I did not enjoy looking at, and it lost. I would not survive one exchange with that thing, so a straight fight is off the table, and I will have to be clever instead. I stand there thinking about it for a while, and then my eye finds the gas cylinder in the kitchen, and the whole plan arrives at once. I do not move on it that night. This gets planned properly, because the entire reason I want to be stronger is so that Chill grows up. If I get this wrong and the tank finishes me, there's nobody left to raise her. I am not going to lose the point while chasing the means. Ji Yosal heard all of it from the bed. She cannot see the street from where she is lying, and she does not need to. She has been through this once, and the noise outside has a shape she recognizes. After the night of the blood moon, the whole world went into an evolutionary frenzy. Humans awakened talents. Zombies produced things far worse than zombies. And every animal that survived the first wave began turning into something the survivors would eventually learn to call a vicious beast. From there, it becomes a single enormous scramble, with zombies and vicious beasts devouring each other for the fuel to climb. Humans stop being purely prey around the same time. After the blood moon, they can finally fight back, and they start harvesting crystal cores of their own. They take them out of zombies and beasts to build serums that force extraordinary genes into a human body. Those serums were an early answer, and not a good one. By the time Ji Yosol died, humanity had developed something far better, a set of cultivation techniques that let a person take strength in directly and completely instead of injecting it and hoping. As the peerless empress of the human race, she practiced the finest one there was, the glass-breathing method. Her first life was ugly at the start, and she survived it on raw talent, clawing out of one grave after another. The technique is what took her the rest of the way to the throne. The frenzy has already begun outside her window, and she can do the arithmetic. An ordinary low-level zombie does not survive what this world is about to become. So she has to get strong quickly. She needs enough to keep her zombie dad alive, and enough to keep herself alive. And at the moment, she has neither. The one piece of good fortune is that dying did not take her memory, and the technique came back with everything else. She is an infant, and an infant can still breathe. That matters more than it sounds. Since the blood moon, the air itself has changed, and it is now full of energy factors, drifting through everything and quietly altering whatever they touch. Every evolution happening out there traces back to them. Human survivors in these early days will not work that out for years, because they are still thinking like people from before the ending. They chase gene serums when the answer is in the air they are already breathing. Only much later does anyone build a breathing technique to take it in on purpose. Gio's cell starts circulating the glass-breathing method, and her small body begins to tremble. Her breathing lengthens and softens into a rhythm nothing that age would produce on its own, and the energy factors come in with it. Every cycle brings more of them, and her bones harden and her flesh refines, and the telekinesis that was so feeble an hour ago starts to thicken into something with weight behind it. That last part matters most. An infant's reserve is nothing, and this is how an infant stops being nothing. She is deep in it when I come back up from the stairwell. I walk into the bedroom and find Chill lying on the bed shaking from head to foot, and every thought in my head evacuates at once. Has she caught a chill in the night? An infant getting sick is a catastrophe. I get a quilt off the side of the bed and cover her with it as carefully as these hands allow. Then I stand over her, feeling more useless than I have felt since I turned. Before all this, a sick child meant a hospital. There is no children's hospital in Ganghae City anymore. There is a building where one used to be, and it is full of the same things every other building is full of. The movement on her body pulls Gyo-sel straight out of her cultivation. She opens her eyes to a quilt she did not have a moment ago, and a zombie standing over her with his face arranged into open worry, and she finds the entire situation extremely funny. The trembling is normal. It is the first stage of the glass breathing method, and every practitioner shakes as the energy comes in. Her zombie dad has watched an infant vibrate in her sleep, concluded she has caught a cold, and gone to get a blanket. She smiles and her eyes go soft. She is looking up at a pale, ruined face with blood-red eyes, and she feels nothing that resembles fear. What she feels is warmth moving through her chest. In her first life, she grew up in an orphanage. She learned to manage herself early, and she got through university on scholarships and subsidies, and every hard and cold and occasionally sweet thing about those years belongs to her alone. Then she finally got a second life with parents in it, and the apocalypse took both of them in the opening week. So this is the first time Gyo-sel has felt anything like a father's care, and it is being delivered by a corpse. She is fine, and she is smiling up at me, and I can finally breathe again. Somewhere in the last few days, this little one got hold of my emotions completely, and I did not notice it happening. She looks up at me with those soft eyes, and I cannot keep my face straight. In a place as ruined as this, a healthy infant is not a small thing to anyone. Which brings me back to the problem across the street. That tank zombie is sitting in a shop a short walk from my front door, and it has to go. I am not going to live next to it. That thing puts its fists through cars, and I have no confidence at all in the old iron gate downstairs. On top of that, it ate a crystal core, and it is going to keep getting stronger while I stand here thinking about it. So I go first. Either I take the core and get stronger myself, or I remove something that will eventually come through my wall. Preferably both. Evening comes, and the city goes dark. In the gloom of the shop across the road, something roars every so often, and the sound is nothing like the noise the ordinary ones make. It is lower, and it arrives with weight behind it. The zombies drifting through the street shy away from it without knowing why. Inside, the thing I watched this afternoon has gotten bigger. It stood a little under 2 meters this morning, and it is closer to 2 1/3 now, and the arms have gained another size. Then something heavy hits the front of the shop. Whatever it was interrupting, the tank does not take it well. It hammers its chest and comes straight out, eyes full of the kind of brutality that has been building pressure all day, and would like somewhere to put it. Out on the empty street, a single low-level zombie is standing still, roaring at it. Anyone looking closely at that low-level zombie would notice its red eyes are entirely vacant. The tank strikes its own chest and answers, and the sound it makes is many times the size of the one it is answering. I am tucked in the dark a long way off, and it still goes through me. That is a serious presence on that thing, I think. Extremely glad I sent an employee. I want what is in its head, so it has to die tonight, and there is no version of this where I walk up to it personally. So the first corpse puppet does the introductions. I have it pick a flower pot up off the curb and put it into the tank's head. Then, before the tank is finished processing the insult, I turn my puppet around and run it. The tank roars at the sky with its eyes lit up. It evolved. It has stopped considering ordinary low-level zombies to be participants in anything. Being hit in the head with a flower pot by one of them appears to be a genuinely novel experience, and it comes after my puppet at full speed. I run the puppet down the road and into a shop I picked out earlier, one at a comfortable distance from any building I care about. 2 gas canisters have been sitting open in there for hours, and the air inside is thick. The puppet gets through the door, and the tank arrives immediately behind it, taking most of the frame with it on the way in. Those fists come down, and my first corpse puppet stops being a shape. It keeps going after that. It stands there working out its temper on what is left, and by the time I walk the second puppet through the door, the first one is a smear across the floor. I bring the second puppet in behind it, have it pull the bent door shut, and have it take out a lighter. The blast takes the front of the building off. Both canisters go together, and the fire comes up bright enough to light the whole street, and inside it, the tank zombie starts making a sound I had not heard from one before. It fights its way out through the flames and gets as far as the entrance, and then it goes down and stays down, burned black from end to end. I pulled my mind out of both puppets the instant before the ignition, so I come through it without so much as a headache. The fire is still going, and the middle of the night has turned bright orange for a block in every direction. I had not fully appreciated what 2 canisters would do, and I am extremely glad I chose to shop this far from the residential buildings, because the pressure wave would have gone straight through me. The problem is the advertising. That was very loud and it is still very visible, and zombies are already drifting in from down the street. They stop well short. Whatever the tank was giving off is apparently still on it even now, so the ordinary ones hang back at the edge of the light, and none of them will close. I do not go out either. I stay in the shadows and I wait, because I watched that thing fight this afternoon and I have not forgotten any of it. A centipede takes a long time to admit it is dead. If I walk up on it and it has one swing left, I will be attending my own service. The flames keep working on it, feeding on whatever is left in the tissue, and after a solid 10 minutes it has not moved once. Only then do I go over. Up close it is unrecognizable. Between the fire and the pressure wave from the canisters, the body has been comprehensively destroyed. The smell coming off it is appalling, and the smoke is thick and black, and a living person breathing that would be on their knees inside a minute. I am not a living person, so it is merely unpleasant. I do not stand around admiring it. I put the machete into the back of its skull. Even burned to charcoal, the bone fights me, which tells me exactly how much its defense improved when it evolved. I have to put real weight behind the blade before the skull opens. Then the edge goes through, and there it is in the wreck of the brain. This one is different from the one I watched it eat this afternoon. That one was pure white. This one is white shot through with red, and the pull it has on me is considerably stronger than the first. I still do not know the rules, but I can read a pattern. The plain white ones are most likely what a zombie produces when it first evolves. Then it eats others and it climbs, and the core takes on red as it goes, which raises the question of what a core looks like when it has gone all the way over to red, and what is walking around carrying it. That tank was already more than I could handle. I would rather not meet the version of it that kept going. More of them are drifting toward the firelight, so I pocket the core and stop sightseeing. I pick 2 intact bodies out of the crowd, take them, and walk home with both. I post the new pair at the ground floor door and go up to the 3rd floor by myself. The core sits in my palm, and the wanting gets worse the longer I hold it. My whole body is leaning toward it. I check the stairwell, and then I stop arguing with myself and swallow it. It dissolves before it has finished going down, and something enormous comes up through me and floods out into my arms and legs and settles into the bone. It keeps working after that, going through the tissue, and the decay that has been sitting in my skin for a month starts backing out of it. I am moving further toward human, not further from it. What I do not get is what the other 2 got. No blades come out of my hands the way they did on the fast one. No mass, no armored forearms, nothing like the thing I just set on fire. From the outside, I mostly look less appalling than I did an hour ago, with my strength and speed and endurance all nudged up a step. Then my head detonates. Something vast arrives behind my eyes, so much of it at once that the stairwell tips and I have to hold the wall. Whatever the crystal core was carrying, it did not go into my body. It went into my mind, and my mind is now considerably larger than it was. I lose control of my throat and roar several times, and I cannot stop it. Downstairs, the zombies in the street go rigid, and then they back away into the dark, exactly the way they did for the tank this afternoon. When it settles, everything is sharper. My head is clear in a way it has not been since I turned, and all 5 senses have gained resolution. Most of all, the connection to my puppets has gone from something I reach for to something that is simply there. It takes me a moment to work out why, and then it is obvious. Different zombies get different awakenings, and mine has always been mental. The 2 I watched today were both close combat builds, one stacking strength and defense, and the other stacking speed, so their cores fed the body. Mine fed the part of me that does the driving. I go out to the street to test it, and I can hold 5 at once. That is more than double what I had this morning, and it is not even the important part. The important part is that I can see through them. Before tonight, I had to keep a puppet in my own line of sight to run it. Now I can put 1-3 streets away and look out of its eyes as though I were standing in its shoes. I sit down on a curb in a dead city and watch myself from across the road, and it takes me a minute to stop grinning. I do not have to leave the apartment anymore. I can send my staff out and do everything from the 7th floor. There is a limit. After enough testing, I established that my reach runs to about 1 kilometer. And past that circle, though, I never have to show my face again. For a moment, I feel like a commander from the old world sitting in a room full of screens, with a fleet of drones on the other end. And since I no longer have to be present in person, I note with some satisfaction that arson, robbery, and murder have all become considerably more convenient. Up on the 7th floor, Geo-Sol is not enjoying her evening. It is late, and her zombie dad has not come back. She heard all of it with perfect clarity. The explosion from down the street and, before that, the roaring of an evolved zombie in the dead quiet. That kind of sound at that hour goes through anybody. She may have been an Empress, but she is currently an infant, and against an evolved zombie with combat strength like that, she has no play at all. She is not especially worried about being found up here. She is worried because he is not back. An ordinary zombie that never evolved has no chance against something like that. Even a survivor camp can be erased by a single tank zombie if their firepower is thin, or they are caught unready. Please, my zombie dad, she thinks, do not let anything have happened to you. I cannot even walk. If something happens to you, I am finished. She is beginning to suspect her chart is simply cursed, given that she has now managed to be fatal to her parents across 2 separate lifetimes. She finally found a zombie dad who had the decency to already be dead, and she had just started to enjoy having a father at all. Now the universe appears to be preparing to send her back to a disastrous starting point for the second time. She had been running the glass breathing method, and she has given up on it, because her mind keeps filling with him, and cultivation does not work through that. Neither of them has said it, and by now these two have become the thing the other one is surviving for. His eyes are still solid red, and she has never once had trouble finding a father's affection in them. She is not prepared to lose this so soon after finding it. Then the lock turns. Ji-Yo-Sol lets the breath go out of her. No ordinary zombie has ever worked a lock, and only one thing in Ganghae City is strange enough to come home and let itself in. Thank goodness, she thinks, and she is smiling before the door is fully open. I walk in and the little one is lying there beaming at me, and something in my chest that has been cold for a month gets warm. For this, I could go and face something worse than what I burned tonight. I go straight to the kitchen and start mixing formula, because between the planning, the trap, and the crystal core, I have been out for hours and she must be starving. I think about how much stronger I got tonight, and I watch her drink, and I am simply happy. I am still living in the end of the world, and my life has started having things in it that I look forward to. Set against the month I spent lying in a store waiting for nothing, this is not a close comparison. Be good, Chill, I tell her. Your father got stronger today, so he can do a better job of keeping you. Maybe it is the strength, or the way the world keeps changing, or the fact that this small clean face keeps smiling at me. Whatever it is, this half-rotten body of mine feels like it has something running through it again. I turned into a zombie, and my life has more in it than it did before. I would like to point out that the version of me who worked late every night and came home to sleep and did it again was also technically a walking corpse. He was having considerably less fun. For the next 2 days, I do not leave Building 5 at all. I do not have to. I send my staff instead, and several corpse puppets working at once cover far more ground than I ever did carrying boxes up 7 flights. The lower floors of this building are now a warehouse. Everything Chill could need now, and a great deal she will not need for years, has been carried in and stacked. As far as I am concerned, the entire building is mine. I am not only stockpiling formula. After what I watched on that street, I understand that the world changed again on the night of the blood moon. Living better in it means being able to fight, and being ready before I have to. So the puppets bring back gas canisters, and the fire axes out of every stairwell cabinet, and every bottle of alcohol that will take a wick. Crowbars, shovels, kitchen knives, anything with an edge or a weight to it comes home too. The rest of the time I look after Chill, or I find an empty apartment and train. Every day looks like the day before it, and I am not bored for a second, because I can feel myself getting stronger and I know exactly what that buys. Ji-Yo-Sol spends those same days lying on a bed, drinking milk and running the glass-breathing method, which is the whole of what her body currently permits. She is too weak to do anything else, and the breathing is the only route open to her. The energy factors keep coming in with every cycle, working on a frail little frame and thickening a telekinesis that started out as almost nothing. She finishes a session and lets out a long breath of stale air, and her telekinesis is measurably stronger than it was a few days ago. Then she catches the faint sounds from the living room, and frowns. She had assumed the reason her zombie dad went out at night was that he kept enough of his old mind to know that nights are safer. Now he has not left the apartment in 2 days. She thinks about the fight between the evolved zombies and the explosion after it, and the roaring that came from somewhere far too close to this building. Her conclusion is that her zombie dad had the misfortune to run into the evolved zombies himself. An evolved zombie does not merely fight better. The pressure it puts out is a physical fact, and an ordinary low-ranked zombie cannot stand in it. Zombies and evolved zombies are nominally the same creature, and in practice they are separating into different species, with everything that implies about which one gets to make decisions. So Ji-Yo-Sol pictures her poor low-ranked zombie dad, huddled in his own apartment, and concludes that he must currently be terrified. The outbreak came too fast for anyone. Most people were gone before they had finished deciding whether to believe it, and in those first weeks everybody assumed an ordinary zombie was the final form of the thing. Nobody was expecting the whole world to be handed a second round of evolution, and the reopening of that road caught an enormous number of people out. An ordinary zombie that never evolved is now at the absolute bottom of the world. Human survivors will kill him. Other zombies will kill him for what is in his head. And the animals that came through the first wave are turning into vicious beasts, and they will kill him too. Simply staying intact as low-level cannon fodder is difficult enough. Doing that while also feeding himself, keeping his own household running, and looking after an infant is a great deal to ask of anyone. Ji-Yo-Sol finds herself genuinely moved, because he is doing it. Under conditions that would excuse almost anything, this zombie has never once looked like a creature considering whether to put her down somewhere and walk away. Decency became an expensive commodity the moment the world ended. She has watched people who were kind before the outbreak do things afterward that she will not think about at length. Someone can be a gentleman on a Tuesday and a cold-blooded killer by the end of the month. She is not certain there is any use in calling it right or wrong, because out here everyone's attention narrows to staying alive. For most people, being alive at all is already an extravagance. Even inside well-supplied camps with real walls, when it comes down to it, the old and the young get left behind by people who intend to keep running. And her zombie dad, who took the full cruelty of this world and came out of it neither human nor ghost, has somehow kept the part of himself that mattered. She looks out at the night sky with an expression that does not belong on a face that age. She needs to move faster. Every week from here produces more evolved zombies and more vicious beasts, and leaning on her zombie dad's abilities is not a survival plan for either of them. So she breathes, and the energy factors come in, and she gets stronger by degrees. She wants it badly, because her zombie dad is plainly not going to be reliable, which leaves her. The work is paying off. Her telekinesis has come a long way from the first trembling lift. The silver needle comes off the nightstand and goes up fast, and then it is crossing the room in hard, bright lines, moving at a speed that has nothing tentative in it. That needle is thin enough to be nearly invisible, and with what is behind it now, it would go through a skull without slowing. Put that together with time control, and Geo-Sol is confident she could kill a grown adult in a lit room without anyone identifying what happened. She is not satisfied. Out here, this is nowhere near enough, and the things coming are worse than the things already here. In the living room, I am reading. One of my puppets turned up a combat manual while going through the surrounding buildings. The previous owner of that apartment was an enthusiast, because there are a great many of them. They cover close quarters work in detail, sanda and judo and boxing and open fighting and grappling, all of it written down properly. So I work through the books and try things in the empty room. Between turning and evolving, this body is already well past a living person's, and I suspect a fair number of professional fighters would come off badly against what I am currently made of. Better still, I am not stiff anymore, so the complicated movements are actually available to me. The real difference between people and everything else is what we do with the brain. These techniques are the distilled result of a great many people testing a great many things in a great many situations, which makes them a shortcut through work I do not have time to repeat. And having watched the ones outside for a month, I can tell you their fighting is crude. Without a mind, there is no technique, so it is claws and teeth and forward pressure. The same 3 moves forever. That is entirely sufficient against a person who is surprised. Against someone properly trained, it is manageable. Even so, a champion boxer would not choose to trade blows with one of these, and that is not a comment on the boxing. It is that a zombie has nothing to lose and a human has everything, because one bad exchange means a bite, and a bite means becoming one. Almost nobody will take that trade. I am not almost anybody. I am already a zombie, so a bite costs me nothing, and the virus has no further business with me. Keeping my mind is the single largest advantage I have, and I intend to spend it properly. I can use weapons. I can learn. My evolution went into my head rather than my hands, so technique is exactly the thing that closes the gap between me and the ones built for killing. Strength beats technique, and technique also redirects strength, and I would like access to both. The manuals are full of joint work too. A lock is fast and it is decisive, and it turns out to work extremely well on something that cannot be taught to defend itself. Zombies have no initiative. They do not study or adapt, and they do not guard. Having a brain against something with none is the largest advantage available in any fight. That said, I am aware that reading about fighting is not fighting. In my old life, I saw plenty of stories about people who trained hard in a hall and then met someone in a stairwell who had never trained at all. So once I have the fundamentals in me, I go down to the 6th floor and set up something better. I walk a corpse puppet into the living room, and then I let go of it. Now it is not a puppet. Now it is a partner, and it wants to eat me, and it will keep wanting that for as long as I need it to. A zombie that knows martial arts is not a thing this world is prepared for. The first exchange teaches me that theory and practice are 2 entirely separate subjects. I never understood why someone could hit a heavy bag hard enough to move it and then get put on the floor in the first 10 seconds of a real bout. Now I do. Distance is a skill. Reading what the other thing is about to do is a skill. Neither one can be trained by hitting something that is not trying to hit you back. Face to face with something genuinely committed to killing me, I find that my collection of techniques is much harder to apply than the books implied. Fortunately, my sparring partner has no interest in stopping, so I get to be wrong a great many times in a row, and it works. My hands get faster, my accuracy improves, and I start landing what I aim at, and eventually I can slip an attack and answer it in the same motion instead of doing those 2 things separately. Along with the fighting itself, all of it feeds back into simple coordination, which is worth having even in the fights I intend to run away from. The room fills up with the sound of impacts and bodies hitting the floor as this extremely unlucky zombie keeps lunging at me. What it keeps meeting is a speed it cannot follow. I slide off the line of its charge, take the shoulder, and put it over my hip. It gets up and I take it over backward, and I feel the spine come very close to going, and I am holding back at the time. I look at what is left of my sparring partner and I am satisfied. Its head has been opened up, the teeth that were already loose are gone, and its nose stopped being a nose some time ago, with black blood running steadily down what remains. I have taken both elbows and both knees out of their joints with reverse locks, one at a time as practice. At this point, a single ordinary zombie coming straight at me is not a fight. It is a demonstration, and honestly it has become slightly cruel. Between the drills and the sparring, I have gone from a man who had read about fighting to a man who can fight, and quickly. No training method in the world can offer you a partner who feels no pain and has no fear of dying. I am pleased with where my speed has gotten to. One ordinary zombie is no longer teaching me anything, so I reach out to bring in a second one and raise the difficulty. And that is when something comes through the link that stops me where I stand. For days now, I have been running two things at once, training in here while my puppets work the neighborhood for supplies. It is the shared vision that makes it possible, and right now the shared vision is showing me something in Building 1 that I do not understand. On the third floor, my two puppets are searching an apartment, and they are not alone, because something just crossed the ceiling. It went fast. If it had not left marks in the plaster on its way over, I would have written it off as a fault in the connection. I send both puppets after it, since a corpse puppet costs me nothing and this city has more where they came from. The thing moves along the walls and across the ceiling in a blur, and it is quick enough that my borrowed eyes cannot hold it. I have both puppets grab lengths of wood off the floor, mostly so they have something in their hands. Then it stops. Whatever it is, watching two zombies pick up sticks appears to be novel enough to be worth a look, so it settles on the ceiling and holds still, and I finally get to see it. I would rather not have. The skin has come away in patches, and what is underneath is wet scarlet muscle. A zombie's face is already a hard thing to look at, and this is something else entirely, because the top of its skull is simply gone, and the brain is sitting out in the open. Its mouth is full of long teeth, and behind the teeth there is a tongue that has no business being a tongue, thick and red and coiled like a snake. Its hands and feet have gone to claws, and whatever happened to the spine has left it unable to stand upright, so it holds itself against the plaster on all fours. Not being able to stand costed nothing. The muscle in those limbs is explosive enough that walls and ceilings are simply more floor, and the claws do the rest. Even evolved, the others at least stayed roughly person-shaped. This one gave that up entirely. I can feel fear coming back to me through both puppets, which is not an experience I have had before, because there is supposed to be nothing in there to be afraid with. I move first, I bring both sticks down at it together. It pushes off the ceiling, and one claw takes the head off my first puppet before the wood finishes falling. The second puppet does not even get turned around. What I see through its eyes is a long red shape arriving very fast, and then I am seeing nothing at all, because it has gone straight through the skull. Two corpse puppets, both under my control, dead inside a single exchange, and neither of them touched it. I come back into my own body on the 6th floor and sit there with my heart going. That last one was the tongue. It has to have been the tongue. I had understood that these things could evolve into something that fights better. I had not understood that one could give up being humanoid altogether and then turn the softest part of a human body into a weapon that punches through bone. It came out and my puppets had no time to react, and I was watching through their eyes the entire time. Whatever came out of that blood moon, it goes considerably further than I had allowed for. My own strange ability is starting to look less like an accident and more like one option on a list, which means I need to be much more careful than I have been. I keep seeing it moving across that ceiling. As I am now, I do not believe I could fight it. 5 puppets at once would not change the outcome, because against something that fast, 5 is simply 5 deaths in a row. So for the moment, my entire strategy is a hope, and the hope is that it stays in Building 1 and never comes looking at Building 5. The blood moon was only a few days ago, and the world has already produced that, which is doing unpleasant things to my mood. I had the tank zombie and the agile zombie filed as the top of the scale. I was wrong about the scale. If those two set aside their differences and went at the thing in Building 1 together, my honest assessment is that it would kill them both and not be delayed much by the arithmetic. I got to experience one of my own deaths at close range through a puppet's eyes, and the pressure coming off that creature was enormous. Even secondhand, it has no skin left, only red muscle, and its raw strength is probably not far under the tank's. What makes it worse is the speed. It goes up walls and holds itself on ceilings, and it comes at you from angles a person cannot cover. The part that genuinely bothers me is the tongue. It never once occurred to me that I might be killed by a tongue. We are in different buildings, and we are in the same complex, and a complex is only so large. Sooner or later, that thing and I are going to be in the same room. I had been enjoying myself right up until that. Taking a zombie apart in a training room felt like progress an hour ago, and now it feels like a hobby. This world does not grade on effort. If I want to keep living in it, I have to get stronger quickly, and I have to do it before something decides the question for me. We are technically the same species, and I doubt that creature has any interest in the argument that we should not be killing each other. So I stop wasting days. I train every morning now against real zombies because nothing improves a fighter like being hit. While I do that, my puppets keep working the neighborhood for supplies, and they have a second job on top of it. They are looking for evolved zombies. I am not going near the thing in building 1. I know almost nothing about it, and it is extremely difficult to handle, and walking up to it at my current level would be a complicated form of suicide. The tank and the agile are a different proposition entirely. Both of them are genuinely dangerous, and both of them are also stupid, and I am a zombie with a brain and a staff. That combination changes the maths considerably. A week of testing has taught me one more useful thing. Crystal cores only form in the heads of evolved zombies. I have taken apart a great many ordinary ones by now, and there has never been anything inside. Then the week is gone, and I am on the 6th floor with 3 of them coming at me at once. The living room is crowded with that many bodies in it, and the crowding works for me, because I am the only thing in here that can plan. The first one lunges, and I am not where it lunged. I come off the turn and put a fist into its jaw. Hitting the nerve there does not switch a zombie off the way it would switch off a man. It does not have to. There's enough behind my arm now to spray blood across the wall and leave the skull sitting loose on the neck. The one behind me commits while I am still low, so I stay low and let it go over, and I take the first one around the waist on the way up. Then it is hips and legs and core, and I put it over backward, and its neck comes apart at the top of the arc. A broken spine does not necessarily kill one of these. It ends the conversation regardless. The last one comes in high and I catch the wrist clean. A little pressure in the wrong direction and the joint leaves the arm. The whole thing takes about 4 seconds. 3 ferocious, genuinely frightening creatures are on the floor of a 6th floor living room. One with its head knocked sideways, one folded at the neck, one with every joint pointing somewhere it should not. If that sequence of noises had happened in a gym before the world ended, everybody present would have needed a moment, and then several ambulances. I stand in the middle of it and I am pleased with myself. Those 3 were on the strong end of what wanders past my door, and they never got started. Out by the gate of the complex there is a pile now, and every body in it came out of my training room in pieces. A sniper is made out of ammunition, and a fighter is made out of fights, and I have been extremely well supplied with both. I am now confident that a crowd of ordinary zombies is survivable. If you drop me back into the world before the outbreak, I would take a freestyle championship belt off somebody, largely because no champion alive was ever able to train like this. Nobody else gets a partner who cannot feel it and does not stop. Upstairs, Geo-Sol is not slacking either. She is an infant who can barely manage her own body, and she has been running the glass-breathing method without a break. The energy factors keep coming in and out, and the results are arriving faster than she expected. She gathers her mental energy and turns it inward onto herself, and her small body lifts off the bed. Her flesh has not grown much, and her mind has grown enormously. After all this work, she can now hold herself in the air at about a centimeter or 2. That does not sound like a great deal until you remember that moving a single silver needle used to leave her wrung out. Flying is the oldest thing people want, and she is not flying yet. She has still gone from a bundle who could not roll over to something that can lift itself off a mattress. And in this world, that is the beginning of being able to protect herself. It is nowhere near enough, and she knows it. An infant who can levitate is, objectively, an extraordinary thing. If any of the large survivor camps got wind of what is happening in this bedroom, they would come for her at a run. A baby with an awakened ability sounds like a miracle even to people who have stopped believing in those. Geo-Sol is not impressed with herself. She has been through this once and she knows the curve she is standing at the bottom of. Every week from here produces more evolved zombies and more vicious beasts, and the fights between them get more frequent, not less. When people fight each other, they need time afterward to recover. When these things fight each other, the recovery is eating the loser's crystal core, which means every battle makes the winner faster than it was. That is a curve she has to stay ahead of, and she is not staying ahead of it from a crib. More than that, she is not the only person in the plan. Her zombie dad came out of the blood moon with nothing visible on him, which makes him an ordinary zombie in a world that has stopped having room for those. Ordinary low-tier zombies are now the unluckiest things alive. Evolved kin will kill them for practice, and awakened humans will kill them for safety, and neither side considers it an event. Without real strength, she does not believe her zombie dad lasts. The thumping downstairs has not stopped in days, and she cannot work out what he is doing down there. She hears it through the floor, because a man throwing several zombies around a 6th floor living room is not a quiet activity. Against things that feel no pain and never tire, he has no reason to hold anything back. What actually worries her is that he has not gone out for supplies in over a week. What is in the apartment will hold for a while. It will not hold forever. And she understands the reason perfectly well because he is an ordinary zombie, and against the evolved zombies outside he has nothing at all. He kept a human mind, so he is capable of being afraid, and a gap that size is a reasonable thing to be afraid of. None of that is his fault. If she is going to blame something, she will blame the world, which she has met. As the human Empress, she knows exactly how this goes. Evolution does not calm anything down. The stronger everything gets, the more constant the killing becomes, and strength stops being an advantage and becomes the entry fee. Before the blood moon, an ordinary zombie had an easy enough existence. After it, with half the world mutating, a zombie that did not evolve is simply the material the rest of them are built out of. She remembers that in the early days, a zombie horde could still panic a city, and by the end, a horde of ordinary ones was something a single strong individual walked through. So she does not have high hopes for her zombie dad. In a world doing this, a low-tier ordinary zombie staying intact at all is already unusual. One doing it while feeding an infant is close to impossible. All she can do is breathe, and grow, and get there before the bill arrives. She does not like being the burden. As the human Empress, she was never the one being carried, and she finds she has no talent for it. She wants to be strong enough to stand in front of her zombie dad rather than behind him. Most of all, she does not want to lose this, whatever this is, even though the source of it is a corpse. So the needles go up. While the technique pulls energy factors in, she runs the silver needles through the air, and they move faster every day and hit harder every day. Her body is too small to be useful, so she has decided to stop waiting for it. If her limbs will not carry her, telekinesis will. A centimeter or two of lift is not much. It is enough that if she rolls off this bed, she will not hit the floor. She is the dignified human Empress. Starving in a crib was already beneath her, and dying of a short fall would be worse. The technique keeps turning over, and her eyes get harder. I finish on the 6th floor and send a puppet through to clear out what is left of my sparring partners. I am on my way up to feed Chill when one of the puppets working the streets sends something back. A street or two over, a zombie with a lean frame and claws that are far too developed is running down a human being. I know it on sight. That is an agile zombie, the same branch as the one I watched get flattened into the road by the tank. The man it is chasing is in bad shape. Through my puppet's eyes I can see how yellow he is gone, and how dry his hair is, and how badly his feet are landing. He has been hiding somewhere for weeks, and he has eaten the last of whatever he had, and today he came out because staying in had stopped being an option. He has been outside for perhaps an hour, and he has run into the one thing I have spent a week failing to find. The agile zombie moves like a cheetah. It punches its claws through a car door at speed, uses the anchor to swing the whole turn, and comes out of the drift already accelerating. It is a genuinely beautiful piece of movement, and I take a professional moment to admire it, because fast in a straight line is common, and fast through the corner is what counts. The man does not get to resist. The claws come across, and that is the end of him. My eyes light up anyway, because I have been hunting evolved zombies for days with nothing to show for it, and one has just introduced itself. I put a puppet on it and start following. Since the night I swallowed that first crystal core and felt what it did, I have not been able to put the wanting down. That is what the last week has been. Fighting drills to make me harder to kill, and puppets out on the streets doing 2 jobs. And the second job has finally paid. I understand the shape of the problem. Every one of these mutated things is going to keep climbing if it is given time, and a step lost early is a step lost permanently. If I do not keep pace with the evolved zombies while the gap is still small, then somewhere down the line I stop being a competitor and start being an ingredient. The good news is that there are not many of them yet. Almost everything on the street is still ordinary. I have been looking for days and found nothing. So now that one has finally surfaced, it is not walking away. I leave one puppet back at a distance to watch, and the other 4 drop what they are carrying, pick up fire axes and move. 4 zombies coming up a street in step with long axes on their shoulders is a genuinely alarming sight. Any survivor watching from a window would have needed to sit down, because zombies do not use tools, and 4 of them marching in formation is a violation of the natural order. My 5 come together a block out and hold, each with an axe, red eyes forward. I do not send them straight in. I have them straggle instead, spread out and aimless, drifting toward the agile zombie, the way ordinary ones drift toward anything. 5 zombies walking shoulder to shoulder with matching weapons would tip off something considerably stupider than this one. I do not spread them too thin either. What I am closing on is fast rather than armored, and if my puppets arrive one at a time, they get taken apart one at a time. The agile zombie has settled in to eat. Food like this has become genuinely rare in the last month. Most of the humans died in the first weeks or turned, and the ones still breathing have learned enough to stay hidden. The ordinary zombies now spend their days drifting in circles to burn as little as possible. Fresh meat is an occasion. This one has not had any in a long time, and it is taking its time. The noise draws other zombies in from down the block. It lifts its head and roars once, and the pressure in it turns them around without a fight, and then it goes back to its meal. Then it hears more footsteps, and 5 ordinary zombies are still walking toward it after being told not to. It roars again, and there is impatience in it now. They keep coming, and at 10 meters I stop pretending. All 5 of my puppets are adult men, whole and heavily built, and they cross the last stretch in about a second, with the axes already coming up. No feint, no warning. Straight at the head. Something enormous goes through the agile zombie's eyes when it registers that 5 nothings have decided to attack it. It moves, and it is fast enough to slip most of what is coming, and most is not all. I have it in a half circle rather than a line, and unless it turns and runs immediately, geometry is going to cost it. The first pass opens its right arm and lays its back open. One of my puppets buries an axe in its ribs and cannot pull it free, and it takes that puppet's head off with one swipe. That is the trait I expected. The agile branch put everything into speed and cutting, and its actual durability is poor, barely better than an ordinary zombie. It cannot afford a stand-up fight, and it is currently in 1. I send 2 in from the front to make it commit. It swats both of them back several steps with a single sweep, and while it is finishing that sweep, the other 2 come in from its flank. 1 axe comes down overhead and 1 comes across level. It reads the overhead one and gets clear, and it never sees the level one, which goes into its waist and takes a considerable amount of it away. It screams and finds another gear, and my second puppet loses its head. 3 left, and 3 is enough, because it is now inside a ring of axes and its speed has nowhere to spend itself. 3 strikes land almost together, and the last one takes the head off at the neck. However good you are still afraid of a chopper, and I brought 5. I look at what is lying in the road, and I am delighted. That thing was strong. If I had not been running them from a safe distance with an actual plan, my 5 would have been scrap inside 2 exchanges. I lost 2, and I can afford 2. I have the survivors dig the crystal core out, put it in a pocket, and start home. A puppet under my control has nothing of its own left in it unless I let go on purpose. The crystal core sitting in that pocket generates no interest whatsoever in the 3 carrying it. They come back through the streets in a loose column. A few ordinary zombies smell it and drift over wanting a share, and each one gets an axe. Evolved zombies are a problem, and ordinary ones are an errand. The escort hacks its way home without losing anybody else. I take the core off them, post the 3 at the entrance with their axes, and go up to the 6th floor. I am grinning before I have it fully out of my pocket, because this one is white shot through with red, exactly like the one I took out of the tank, which means the agile zombie I just surrounded was not merely evolved. It had already eaten a core of its own. No wonder it moved like that. I get my breathing under control and swallow it. The same flood comes up through me, and this time I know what it is. My skull feels like it is expanding again, and I have done this before, so I set my teeth and hold on through the surge until the pressure breaks and my head goes clear. I can feel the corners of my mouth going up. I am stronger again. Every sense sharpens another step, hearing and sight and the rest, and my mental reach has gone up considerably more than that. Better still, my body finally moved. 2 cores in a row have done what one could not, and my strength, my speed, and even the toughness of my skin have all come up together. I have been quietly envious of that tank since I watched it work. Those forearms turned an agile zombie's claws, and claws like that go through a car. I am not that. I am also not what I was a week ago. I throw a few punches and the air complains about it, and for a moment I look like a man who has been studying something for 20 years. That is a relief, honestly. My branch has always been mental, and having a mind like this attached to a body that could barely hold a crowbar has been sitting badly with me. I pick up the machete and open it up. The rune fills with silver and the edge tears the air, and in these hands the thing has stopped being a tool and become a weapon. Swallowing cores is clearly the fastest route there is, because my close quarters ability just moved further in one swallow than it did in a week of drills. Then I sit down and take stock of the mental side, and the mental side is where the real change is. If what I had after the blood moon was a cup, what I have now is a basin. I test it from the 7th floor window, and I can hold 10 at once. 10 separate bodies, 10 separate sets of instructions, all of them running. And the range has gone to 3,000 meters. I go straight down to the street and pick my new staff out of the crowd. 10 of them, whole limbs and heavy frames. I have been having puppets bring back fire axes on site for a while now, so there is a supply. I put an axe in every pair of hands, and 10 large men, none of them much under 2 meters, line up in front of me with the blades up on their shoulders. I look at my squad and nod. The zombie edition of the Axe Gang appears to be operational. Standing in front of that line, I do not feel anything like the man who spent a month lying in a shop. I am already picturing the version of this with 100 of them behind me, moving through Ganghae City with the blades out. You are all very strong, I think, and one-on-one against a melee build I would lose. But there are 3 things I bring to this world: a complete absence of scruples, a large mental reserve, and a very great number of corpse puppets. Out here, the only thing that matters is force. A collection of thugs who evolve the muscles and skip the brain does not get to pick the terms, and nobody is obliged to fight any of them alone. My entire doctrine is the swarm. If something wants to settle this with its hands, I regret to inform it that I will be answering with 10 axes and a machete. Sporting conduct is a peacetime concept, and more men with more axes is very good. Then I turn and look at building 1, and everything warm goes out of me. I have not forgotten what is in there. I am not even certain the word zombie applies, and as an actual member of the species, I would prefer it did not, because I do not care to be filed alongside that. Dying through a puppet's eyes leaves an impression. Having now fought an agile zombie properly, I can put the two side by side, and the comparison makes me more careful rather than less. That agile zombie had already eaten a core and my sworn still buried it. The thing in building 1 is faster than the agile zombie was, and it hits harder. On top of everything, it carries a hidden weapon in its mouth that I do not know how to defend against. It killed 2 puppets in one exchange without being touched. I have 10 now. I run the fight in my head, and I do not like the answer. The truthful position is that I know almost nothing about it. I have seen it once, by accident, while my staff were out shopping, so I decide to find out. In a few days, I will send puppets in to probe it properly and establish exactly what I am living next to. I am not going to sleep well with that in the building across the way. 3 days go by, and by the end of them, the 6th floor has stopped being an apartment and become a training hall. The noise out of that living room is constant now, impacts and roaring, and this afternoon there are 5 of them on me at once. I take an arm, roll the joint, and throw the body into the one coming up behind me, and both go down together. The next one gets a whip kick high on the neck, and its head leaves entirely. All of that happens fast enough that the last 2 are only now arriving. I drop under their reach, take both of them at the hips, and drive them into each other. Then I stand up and start punching, and the roaring stops, 1 head at a time. 5 at once, and it is no longer a fight. The evolution did more than add strength. My speed, my reactions, and how much I can absorb have all moved together, and the effect is that I can stand inside a crowd of these things and slip everything they throw. Then the drills take over, and now that there is real force behind my arms, a clean strike simply ends the skull it lands on. I look at the floor and decide this body will finally do. The thing I was walking around in a month ago could barely defend itself from an ordinary zombie. This one does not have that problem. I have the puppets carry the pieces out, and then I wash the blood off properly, because I have a child to feed and I am not doing it looking like this. Up on the 7th floor, I mix the formula and feed Chill Chill a spoonful at a time. Her appetite keeps improving and she goes at it with real enthusiasm, and I cannot help smiling at her. Whatever else is wrong with the world, nothing has put this child off her food. Afterward, I bring out the toys. Dolls, a few toy cars, teddy bears, the whole haul. Gyo-so watches her zombie dad attempting, clumsily, to entertain her, and finds she has nothing to say. She looks like an infant. Inside, she is a mature, cold-eyed, decisive, peerless empress, and the proposition currently on offer is a stuffed bear. It is, however, kindly meant. She has lived 2 lifetimes, and she is comprehensively past the age of being amused by a rattle. She is also aware that nobody has ever done this for her in either of them, and something in her chest keeps insisting on being warm about it. So she looks at the hopeful, faintly pathetic effort in front of her and produces a smile. I had been getting slightly discouraged because her face was not doing anything at all, and my entire methodology comes from television. Then she smiles, and I am so relieved that I redouble everything. Gyo-so's eyelid twitches because there is apparently a cost to being gracious. Never mind, she decides, and she will treat it as telekinesis practice. Once she has had enough of that, I am satisfied, and I go to the window, and my face changes. Everything is about ready. It is time to go and find out what that thing can actually do. I go back down and restock. Evolved zombies are scarce, but ordinary ones are lying around this city like gravel, and even burning through them daily in the training room I can top up any time I want. I take my pick and bring the squad back to 10. Tall, heavily built, all limbs present, and specifically none that had been chewed on by their own kind. I am not being fussy for its own sake. That monster took 2 puppets off me instantly, and neither one landed anything, and a gap like that does not permit sloppiness. 10 big men with fire axes line up in front of me, and the effect is genuinely intimidating. I would back this squad to hack a tank zombie to death where it stood, and then I look at them again and something is missing, and after a moment I put my hand to my forehead. I armed them and I never armored them. There is a scooter shop on the corner that also sells helmets. We go and take the door off it, and I put a full-face motorcycle helmet on every single one of them. The result is spectacular. 10 corpse puppets in matching black helmets stand in a line with fire axes on their shoulders. They give off enough presence that anyone stumbling onto them would assume a biker gang had survived the end of the world. I knock on a couple of the helmets and I am satisfied that this will do. I do not bother armoring the bodies. They are low-level zombies, and they are replaceable, and there are more downstairs. They are also very nearly unkillable, which is the actual point. Physiology does not apply to these things. The head is the only place that matters, and as long as the head is intact, they will keep going with limbs missing. So a helmet is worth more to a corpse puppet than a breastplate. A body can be opened up and the axe still comes down. Now I am satisfied. I take the squad out and we go to building 1. I genuinely do not understand how the thing in there arrived at its current design. Thinking back to our first meeting and what it looked like, I find myself faintly disgusted. Even as a zombie, you should still resemble a person. Whatever is in building 1 gave that up somewhere along the way and did not look back. Last time it killed me through a puppet before I understood what was happening. This time I have come prepared, and I am at least somewhat confident. Let us see whether you can hold off an axe squad. I stay in building 5 with my whole attention on the 10 of them. My reach is 3,000 meters now, so there is no reason on earth for me to attend in person, and in close quarters that thing would go through me like a door. Home is the correct place for me to be. I walk the squad in through the front door of building 1 and start at the ground floor, room by room. I take my time. Nothing gets skipped, and I pay particular attention to the ceilings. It discarded the human shape in exchange for 4 sets of claws and enough raw strength to hold itself on plaster, and it crosses a ceiling faster than most things cross a floor. 4 floors, cleared carefully, and no sign of it anywhere. My brow is down. 4 floors of nothing, and I am starting to wonder whether it left ahead of us. The squad reaches the 5th floor and keeps working. What none of them notice is that it is directly above the doorway they just walked through. 4 claws are sunk into the wall like driven knives, and it lies flat against the surface like a spider, in complete silence. It watches them go past underneath. Its position is deliberate, and it is perfect, because it is precisely in the blind spot of everything I can see. I am running these bodies remotely, and borrowing their eyes, and borrowed eyes do not look around a room the way a person standing in it would. Where has it gone, I am thinking, because it cannot have left the building. Then something comes down through the air behind my squad. The nearest puppet takes a full claw strike and leaves its feet, and hits the floor hard enough to bounce. The helmet is the only reason I still have it. That strike tore more than half the shell away and very nearly took the skull with it. And because the shell was there, my puppet is damaged rather than finished, and it can still fight. I bring the whole squad around and the axes come up together and the air fills with the sound of them. If Ji Sol were standing here, she would name it instantly. This is the liquor, the branch that killed more survivors than anything else in the first months of her last life. It has decided the squad is an invasion of its territory, and it is furious about it. A wall of axes coming down does not concern it at all, and it comes straight back in. I smile at that, because a zombie is a zombie. You can evolve everything you like. If you skip the brain, none of it saves you. It goes through my formation at a speed I cannot properly track, and every time those claws come round, another puppet gets thrown across the room. It does not matter, because my puppets do not care. They are not afraid, they cannot feel any of it, and as long as the head is intact, they simply turn around and keep swinging. It runs a claw clean through one of them, and I have that puppet ignore the hole entirely, clamp its arm down on the claw, and hold on. Then the axe comes down on the licker's head. The others converge while it is pinned, and the blades keep coming. It is fast enough to tear itself loose and get out of the ring, and it does not get out clean. I have spent this month training more than my own hands. To get real output from the squad, I went and specifically studied how to generate force with an axe. My puppets swing like men who know what they are doing rather than like bodies holding a weight. I also start concentrating them, because the first exchange taught me something. Its musculature is extremely dense, and ordinary zombie strength behind a fire axe only strips flesh away. It does not reach anything that matters. Single blows are useless. Volume is the entire strategy, and volume is the one thing I have. So I put 3 puppets on the same spot and keep them there. The first 2 land and it absorbs them. The third comes down while it is still recovering from the second, and this time the axe goes all the way through, and the licker loses an arm. That gets its attention. It finally accepts that the squad is a real problem, disengages entirely, and goes up onto the ceiling. I have every remaining puppet throw its axe at it, which is where I discover the limits of remote labor. The instant it left the encirclement, its speed became something my borrowed eyes cannot follow, and a low-level puppet cannot lead a target moving like that. The axes go where it was. It reacts before the first one lands, puts itself through the window in a spray of glass, and is outside. My pupils shrink, because through my puppets I can see it on the outside face of the building, and it is moving across a sheer vertical wall exactly as though the wall were a floor. Then it is gone. I stand in my own living room swearing at nothing. 10 puppets, full preparation, a plan that worked. And it still walked away. A 90-degree exterior wall is level ground to that thing, and it moves like something that was designed for this. The helmets are the only reason today was not a disaster. Without them, I would have lost most of the squad and still not killed it. And now it knows. It has been hurt, and it has seen what I can field. and it is going to be careful from here. It may well be worse than careful, because there is no reason to assume a creature that intelligent about positioning is incapable of holding a grudge. It hangs upside down wherever it likes and attacks from any angle it chooses. And it is the single worst thing I have met since I woke up in this world. Letting it go is a problem I now have to live with. If it panicked and left the complex entirely, fine, though I do not believe that. I think it is still here somewhere, and it moves without sound, and it leaves almost no trace. And one-on-one it beats me. The part that keeps returning to me is the wall. It does not need stairs. I can post puppets in every hallway in this building and it will simply come up the outside. If it ever finds out there is a child on the 7th floor, none of my arrangements matter, none of which I can fix by being annoyed about it. I underestimated it and it got away, and mending the fence laid is still worth doing, so I put a plan together. 3 of the heaviest puppets go on permanent patrol inside Building 5, fully armed, every day. If that thing comes in quietly, I want to know within the minute rather than at the moment it matters. I look at the marks it left in the wall and click my tongue. Whatever is in that skull is going to be worth considerably more than the tank's core or the agile zombies. Eating it would move me a whole level. For now, I put my other puppets back on patrol through the surrounding streets, looking for anything else evolved and alone. I had been feeling reasonably good about myself after 2 crystal cores. That thing gave me a very practical correction. I need to be stronger quickly, because the next one I meet may be worse. And against something like that, a handful of puppets is not an answer. 3,000 meters of reach is a great deal of city. I intend to use it. Up on the 7th floor, Ji-Yosol's telekinesis has come a long way. At this moment, she has 2 ragdolls up in the air, and she is making them dance. A peerless Empress would ordinarily have nothing to say to a ragdoll. She started only because she did not want to waste her zombie dad's kindness, and then she discovered 2 things at once. Manipulating them is excellent fine control practice, and it is unexpectedly good fun. She feels him coming up the hall and drops both dolls into her arms before the door opens. I walk in and find Chil hugging 2 ragdolls, thoroughly delighted with herself, with the most innocent smile I have ever seen on anybody. Whatever the day did to me comes off in about a second. The world out there is dark and broken, I tell her silently, and I hope that when you are grown you will not be disappointed by it. I hope she gets to stay exactly this untroubled, and I hope both of us are still here. Looking at her, I could take on absolutely anything. Outside that window, there is nothing but ruin. Inside this room, there's a small piece of the world that is still clean, and out there survival means killing without stopping. So this bedroom is the last clean thing I own. Then I look at the window itself, and my face changes, and I go out fast. Ji-Yosol watches him go with some confusion. He has barely left the building in days, and now he has come in and gone straight back out, and his expression on the way was not good. Something out there must have happened. Then he comes back carrying an armload of boards and a box of nails, and starts nailing them across the bedroom window, one at a time. That creature broke every assumption I had. It cannot walk upright, and it can cross a rooftop, and a building's outer wall is a floor to it, which means the 7th floor is no longer the safe height I chose it for. Patrols in the hallway are worthwhile, and they are not sufficient, because that thing does not use hallways. If it comes in through this window, there is nothing between it and her. I cannot watch this window every hour of the day and night. I can make it expensive. From the bed, Ji-Yosol has no idea what she is looking at. Her zombie dad has not gone outside in days, which was odd enough, and today he has decided to board up a window. She takes in how serious his face is and raises an eyebrow. Has he felt the evolved zombies out there and become frightened enough to want the whole world shut out? She turns it over and cannot find another explanation, because under any normal circumstances no zombie boards up a window. She does understand the instinct. An ordinary low-level zombie standing near a mutated one feels it in the body, and against something like that they have nothing at all. Still, surely he is not frightened enough to nail a window shut. Ji-Yosol shakes her head, because her zombie dad really is a terrible coward. She does not think less of him for it. She knows what an ordinary zombie is worth in this world. As evolved zombies and vicious beasts multiply, the low-level ones become roadside ants, and there is no version of the future where they are anything but cannon fodder. On top of that, humans have started producing awakened of their own. In the first weeks, people could only run from ordinary zombies, and now that they are evolving too, a human can hunt one down without much difficulty. No strength and no standing. Simply continuing to exist is hard enough, and he is doing it while carrying her, and she has worked out what the boards are actually for. This bedroom is where she lives. He is not sealing the apartment but the room with the baby in it, so that nothing gets to her. Watching him drive nail after nail into the frame, something goes through Ji-Yosol's chest and stays there. The world ends, the pressure never stops, and death can arrive on any given afternoon. Her zombie dad is frightened of all of it, frightened enough that he will not go outside. He has never once behaved like a creature considering putting her down. He does not have the strength for any of this, and he keeps finding ways to protect her anyway. He is a zombie, and by the standards of the apocalypse, he has already outclassed most of the living. Whichever life she counts, this is the first time Geosol has felt anything this heavy pointed at her and meant kindly. Wait for me, zombie dad, she thinks. It will not be much longer before you do not have to be afraid. Give this Empress enough time to grow up, and after that the protecting will be her job. She looks at his back with an expression far too old for that face. The end of the world took a great deal from everybody. Geosol has now been given something she never had in 2 lifetimes, and she is not going to lose it. I get the last nails in and stand back. I have not sealed it completely. I have left 2 gaps, one for light and one for air, because safety matters, and I am not raising a child in a dark airless box at that age. The room is boarded, which is defense enough on its own. I look at the window and I am satisfied. That thing is powerful, and getting through glass and then through these layers is going to cost it real time and real noise. That is the whole point. Against zombies, it is a massacre, and against structure, it is much weaker than a tank. So this window does not have to stop it. It only has to slow it down long enough for me to arrive. 3 more days pass. I keep the puppets sweeping the area, and the liquor does not surface once. It has not been seen since it went out of that window. I let myself relax slightly, and I do not stand anything down. 2 puppets keep walking Building 5 every day regardless, since they do not eat, drink, rest, or expect to be paid. Then something arrives through the link. One of my puppets went 2 streets over to a small shop, got the door open, and started collecting. And several people come through the doorway behind it, with steel pipes and kitchen knives, already committed, having clearly decided that whoever is inside is going to be a problem they solve. Then my puppet turns around, and all of them stop moving. The pale skin and the red eyes settle the question of what they are looking at. A moment ago they were aggressive. Now they are standing very still with their faces coming apart, because the world has been ending for weeks, and people still have something older than reason telling them what a zombie is. I am nearly as surprised as they are. I had no idea anyone was still living around here. I want no part of this, so I start walking the puppet toward the door. Then one of them, a heavy-set man with an iron rod, tells the others to look at themselves and asks what exactly there is to be frightened of, and comes at my puppet. I shake my head. I was leaving. Since I am not being permitted to leave, I bring the fire axe up. The axe meets the rod, and the instant they touch, I know I have made a mistake. I choose big puppets on purpose, and a zombie is naturally stronger than a living man to begin with.